What's up, YouTube?
Tell Speaking Brian he can comment from work.
Yeah.
What does Brian do?
Brian North.
What does Brian even do?
He does. I think he does media for his church. I believe. I could be wrong.
He could be doing the podcast from there. Media from his church, and they're making him. Whatever.
I don't buy it. Welcome, YouTube. It's a special crossover Star Wars Rant podcast. We've got a couple familiar faces, but I guess you could call them guests with us this week. But we're going to talk a lot about Star Wars this week specifically. So hopefully you enjoy watching us do that.
Why can't I get type right?
Are we ready for Audacity?
Oh, oops.
Do you have to reinstall it?
The ones that do it every week are the ones that forget the most. Or not on time. Like me.
Nope, I don't have to reinstall it. Just gotta open it up here. Okay, ready to go.
Everybody ready?
Hold up. So live. Comment. Chad, do you still watch with the YouTube comments open?
I have been, yes.
Okay. Everybody, I'm ready to record. If everyone else is.
Everybody ready to record?
Yeah.
Hands. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 170 of the South Dakota Gamer Podcast. This week, a special edition South Dakota Gamer crossover event with the Star Wars Rant Podcast. That's right. It's an almost all Star Wars episode. We're going to finally do many months after The Last Jedi has been even into Blu-ray. We're going to talk about our feelings on The Last Jedi. We're also going to give some predictions for the Solo, a Star Wars story movie as well. But the majority of this is going to be Star Wars. However, there are a few things we wanted to talk about when it comes to games. But before we get to that, let me introduce all our wonderful co-hosts this week. I obviously am Chad, joining, as always, Dave Mann.
Never tell me the odds, Chad, or Brian, or B-Knob, who is dead to us.
Okay. Also, Josh Owens.
It's entirely possible this podcast is not stable.
Wow, didn't see that coming at all. And then special guest, you know him, you love him, Isaac Ali.
I'm just going to say hi. I don't have anything clever to say. So
Nope, fair.
Isaac is now finally graduated to a special guest.
Wow.
I'm probably going to fall asleep. So let's get this going.
And then also joining us again, Brian Seddon.
Hey guys.
Hey man.
Hey, Brian. Hey, what happened to the Star Wars Rant Podcast, man?
Well, it's it's not gone. It's just not active right now.
It's in a galaxy far, far away.
It is in a galaxy far, far away. Much like Luke was for a while in hiding. I think it's kind of in hiding right now.
The podcast has cut itself off
from the Force.
I was going to say it's on one of those useless Canto Bite missions.
Oh, all right. Well, before we get too much into our thoughts on The Last Jedi, real quick, I'm going to just kind of promote another prediction show we're going to do. We're doing our E3 prediction show.
E3.
My goodness. June 4th will be that show where Josh, Dave, and I will give our predictions for the big show. And then, of course, another friend of the show, Evan Steele, will come back on and judge us on our correctness for those predictions. We look forward to doing that. So keep your podcast feeds open for June 4th. All I'm going to do real quick is 4 news items in the news that you can use.
If you so choose.
Do so.
Wait a minute.
We're all asleep. No one's paying attention. Josh was asleep. He wasn't expecting that to happen. So real quick before we get to Star Wars stuff.
Give me another chance. I can do a better one.
No, it's too late.
Man.
Chad was like, and that's going to be on June 4th. Next news you can use?
I know.
Josh,
hey,
Josh.
You got to be on the ball. So speaking of being on the ball, Black Ops 4 It's the next Call of Duty game. It's coming out. We saw the reveal. We talked about it a little bit.
Wait a second. What's the reference?
Nothing. It was just. It was. I was trying to make a segue. It didn't work out well, especially when you call it out like that. But Black Ops 4 was revealed this last week. We got Blops 4 with 3 or 4 I, not IV. We talked about this.
Josh, what's the correct term, please?
Wait, what?
The correct term for those eyes?
Roman numerals?
Wait, isn't it called something? Weren't you guys calling it something? I can't remember what it's called.
I don't remember. But Josh found it in the real world. Like they used that for real for eyes, not IV.
I was in Pompeii and I saw it, guys.
So
you know it's true. I saw it on the actual Roman Colosseum.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. So Black Ops 4 revealed. Is indeed there is no story. No story mode for this game. It has multiplayer. It has zombies. And then also is going to have a Battle Royale mode called Blackout. It'll have vehicles, planes, cars, be their biggest map they've ever created. Looks interesting. We didn't see any gameplay for it. We did see some multiplayer gameplay, but nothing for the Battle Royale mode. They have yet to confirm how many players will actually be able to play in a match. They've yet to say that.
Mm-hmm. I have to say that the trailer did really grab my interest, my attention. The idea of they said not only did they say it's their biggest map ever, but they took sections of their best maps and are putting them together into one.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they tie that in, or if it's going to be completely separate sections, or if they're going to make a theme that's similar in all of them, but it stands out as, oh, this is from, Firefight or not Firefight, but whatever, that kind of stuff. Can't remember the names of any maps right now.
Yeah,
just thinking about Star Wars.
It is good though. I think that they're doing
map to Luke Skywalker is the only thing I can think about right now.
They're doing their own spin, not just copying it. Right, straight from
a video of the
PUBG.
gameplay?
Well, they had some multiplayer gameplay. Yes, they did show
like
that.
the Battle Royale. Isn't this it right here?
I don't think I've seen that one.
Is he just showing PUBG footage?
I mean, it's basically the same thing because they take everybody else's idea.
I get it.
Oh,
okay, I get it.
Oh,
I get it.
The only unique thing about this game is the way that they have the Roman numerals. That's it.
Their title.
That's probably what they've been doing for the last year. Is like, all right, what are we going to do for the number 4?
Put another hash line. Mark.
Well,
and then 5 is going to have the line through it. Watch.
Oh man.
Oh. Hey.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty good.
Idea.
let me email them right now and see if I can get a deal with
put a TM after that, so it's yours.
I'm wondering.
Quick, Isaac. Trademark Blops 5.
Verbal trademark. You heard it here. I'm wondering why even call it Black Ops then if there's not going to be a story, if it's not going to touch on any of the rest that like the other games have built on.
Yeah,
why even call it Black Ops at all?
Because it's Treyarch.
Except for the fact that it's their turn.
It's all their properties too. It's all Black Ops. It's like the blackout mode assets. Is all of their maps. Yeah, their assets and stuff, and their zombies and
lame.
Well, we will see more undoubtedly.
I feel like even if they named it something else, they'd have to at least have Black Ops somewhere in the title. Like, you know what I mean? Like Black Ops. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, at least not make it I don't know. It seems weird to make it a mainline Black Ops game and be like, oh, but we're not going to mess with the story at all.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. All right. Quickly moving on. May 23rd, which is just a couple days from today, we're going to get our Battlefield V reveal. They're going to do the vignettes for the story again, so it's going to be, little smaller bite-sized stories. Which I think worked out well with 1. Mm-hmm. And they showed a little teaser trailer today of some guy just saying shh. And appears from that people have deciphered that it's going to be World War II, which is also what the rumors were saying as well. So
May 23rd. Like, how was the guy dressed?
I guess with the goggles he had on, and then they had the teams, like the bar was at the top and the symbols for the flags. So I guess from all those
things. It does seem weird that they would go from like Battlefield 1 was World War I, and now they're going back to Battlefield 5, or is this just a placeholder name?
No, it's 5.
So what? I mean,
officially
Battlefield 5 would be World War II.
Yes. Because Battlefield 4 was the modern era one.
I know.
You know what? It doesn't make sense. You don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
No, guys, they're gonna tie it all together with the time travel storyline in the background of these vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you're traveling from vignette to vignette.
JJ Abrams
1 gigawatts.
story.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Excellent.
All right, glad we figured that out.
2 Spocks in this one.
2 Spocks. Next, Super Mario Tennis Aces is getting a demo this week.
Huh?
Demo. Super Mario Tennis Aces
For the
is getting
Switch?
a demo on the Switch.
Excellent.
If you download that and play the demo, you get a cool new outfit you can play. If you do buy the game and some other things you can unlock as well.
Got my Switch.
So I'm looking forward to downloading that this week. And then finally, the Miramar map, desert map from PUBG, is coming to Xbox on May 24th.
Real quick, Chad,
later
you
this
played
week
this
also.
last night.
I
What do you
did.
think?
It's fun. It's different. That's what makes it fun.
Wait, you guys haven't played it on the test server at all?
I did this week. It was the first time I was able to do it. Did you get a chance to, Brian, at all?
Yeah, I've played multiple times on the test
What do you
server.
think?
It's good. It's like it seems really big compared to the other map, and then so I haven't been everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's kind of different. The buildings are set up so different than the other map, and you're on the other map. You're so used to, like, we always go to Georgia Pool. We know all the buildings we hit.
Mm-hmm.
We know, I could do it with my eyes closed, run through the buildings. Here it's completely
Really,
different. But
Brian?
I could.
We're testing that tonight.
But on the other one, it's so wide open, and so the other thing is too, if you're out like in the open, because there's no shrubberies or tree or anything, I mean, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's nowhere to hide. You feel very very vulnerable because it's just big wide open spaces with no trees even to hide behind. There's just nothing.
So, but it's a welcome change though. For sure.
It's new. It's new.
I did download it all this morning, so
You know, it would be a welcome change if they finished the game, so it didn't play and look like trash.
that is very true.
That's a good bring some levity, and I like it.
I saw this video. I think I shared it with at least Chad, of a girl that was driving a motorcycle, but the 3-seat motorcycle, and she's driving over the hill, and a buggy comes up behind her and hits her in the back of the motorcycle, and the car flips up in the air and falls down and explodes.
Yeah,
He keeps
it's like
driving.
real physics.
Didn't even hurt her at all. And then the first comment was, man, I like this game because it's so much more realistic than Fort. And then it's just nothing else.
That's great. That's great. It's the quirks that make it unique for sure. And one other thing I don't have here to mention real quick is Fortnite. Speaking of Fortnite, supposedly the jetpacks are coming very soon.
Wow.
For a limited time.
Yeah, for a limited time. So
that's a good. I like the limited time ideas they have, because you don't want to just jack your game up,
Yeah, just break it for a little while. All right, well, that's it, guys. That's all the news I have for the video games. I wanted to cut through that as quickly as possible. We'll still mention a few things. So the first 10 minutes or so, video games now, the meat and potatoes of this episode, the Star Wars stuff. And for this section, we're going to hand it over to Dave to kind of moderate how we roll. So
that's
Dave,
why it's going to be so much better.
Wait a minute.
Not because it's Star Wars, because I'm hosting it.
Just end everything right now.
Yep, that's right. So we already did introductions. We know who everybody is. That's awesome. So just jump right in to the Star Wars stuff. Okay, obviously this movie came out, what did we say? Was it 6 months ago, 5 months ago? December. So it's May, 5th month. Yeah. So obviously we're far removed. Spoilers, whatever. We're not specifically trying to spoil it, but we're definitely not staying away. There will be spoilers in this. If you haven't seen it already and you're even listening to this, I'm very confused as to why you are. But very divisive among the Star Wars fans. A lot of people think it's great. A lot of people think it's garbage. And then I'm assuming there's a lot of people that are in between as well. So we'll address all of that. But first of all, I just wanted to start off by asking everybody, what were your initial thoughts after you walked out of the theater for the first time back in December seeing this movie? We'll start with Isaac.
So when I watched it, I was actually in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
With my wife's family.
# humble brag.
Yeah, hashtag.
So he saw it 32 days before any Americans.
Yeah, just going to a third world country to watch it. No big deal. So it's not what I wanted. It's not what I was expecting, but I did not hate the movie.
Right.
Like we had this conversation before, back when Josh was saying, there's no reason for them to even be making one. And I had made the comment saying, it's Star Wars. So whatever Star Wars movie they put out, I'm just happy for more Star Wars. So I think that was my sentiment with that. I wish it almost felt like it wasn't picking up where Episode 7 left off. It felt almost like an alternate Star Wars universe where Luke was afraid to get into this fight or whatever it may have seemed like. But I enjoyed it because, again, it's Star Wars. I love the characters. The cinematography was awesome. Like the visuals were spectacular. But it's not what I was hoping for in the continuation of the story.
How do you feel now, 5 months later, having seen it on Blu-ray and all that stuff multiple times?
Surprisingly, actually, I've only watched it for a second time last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I didn't go back to the movies to watch it on a nicer, bigger screen here in the States. And then I had completely forgotten about it, to be honest, until I saw like on Twitter, everybody was like, oh, it's coming out on digital today, or it's coming out on Blu-ray.
And that in itself says something to me.
It does. But then again, I also think it's because it hasn't been as long. Right. The absence without a Star Wars movie wasn't as long, like with Episode 7.
Did you pick up things that you didn't notice the first time around?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, when Kylo says, and it was actually after I had watched Episode 8 again, and I was rewatching Episode 7, when it dawned on me, Kylo tells Rey, your parents are nobodies or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then when I was rewatching Episode 7, when he gets the report saying that BB-8 escaped with Finn, he flips out and he starts slashing the console, and then he says anything else, and the guy says there was a girl that was with him that helped him, and then he like turns around, force pulls the guy, and like starts choking him, and he's like, "What girl?" And then it made me think, well, why was he flipping out about that if this girl had no significance? Like he had no idea. You would think he had no idea who this girl was, but he just associated a girl on Jakku that helped them get away from highly trained soldiers and TIE fighters. It's almost like, okay, this is Rey. So it made me think, okay, he knows what's going on. And you said, well, it's because there were different writers and directors for each movie, and obviously Johnson was planning to go in a different direction, which he did with Episode 8. So I think that's the biggest thing I noticed.
Yeah, I feel like that was the same way for me. When I saw it and I walked out, my first thought was like it was like an out-of-body experience, and I noticed I don't know what I feel right now. Like I expected to feel something so much different. Like after walking out of The Force Awakens, I was like, bouncing on my feet, like, oh man, what about this? What about this? What about this? And this one, though, definitely like one of the best, if not the best visual looking Star Wars to date. Just amazing. Very good set pieces, very good shots. That monochromatic shot where the spaceship hyperdrives. I mean, it was great. That was like really cool looking. But then walking out, I was like, man, there was a lot of things that I didn't expect, which can be good. But to me, it left me with, I use this term, I think, in the Star Wars Rant podcast, or either in the thread or something. I feel like Rian Johnson answered a lot of questions. He just answered them all in ways that that a lot of us didn't want answered that way. And to where he almost answered all of them, to where going out of the movie, it's like, well, what am I looking forward to? Like, there is a positive in looking at it and being it's a blank slate. Anything can happen. There's definitely a positive in that. But at the end of a second act out of 3 acts, it seemed very out of place. Watching it the second time, I will say I liked it better. I did like it better. Because before I saw it the second time, I had actually told myself I don't want to say I didn't like the movie, because that's not true. I did like the movie. I think I said the first time we reviewed it on Star Wars Rant that I loved the movie. But it's like you said before, Isaac. If I have to rank the movies, this is the one I like the least. But I never say, "Oh, I hate this one." I don't like this one. So that's kind of how I felt. And to wrap my little segment up here, I feel the same way you did about where it felt like, and it's because there's different writers and everything. It just didn't feel as connected as I expected it to be. It didn't feel like it was picking up the story. Although clearly, there's the story of Rey, but it just felt it a little disjointed, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like Johnson didn't really care to do any fan service in the movie, which it's should be the mentality of a writer director, I guess. Right. But at the same time, who are you writing this movie for? It would have been cool to see Luke have one more. Well, it would have been cool to see Luke have a great lightsaber fight, before they sent him off. I feel like what they did with Leia was kind of pointless. It's like, why put her out there and then she somehow pulls herself back into the ship? It didn't make sense to me. So there's different things like that.
Yeah, it's one of the criticisms of Lucas is that he did the prequels and didn't care about what the fans. That was one of his biggest criticisms. Is he wasn't writing it for the fans. He was writing it for himself. What he wanted to finish the story. And so then you've got, that's what this is. The Star Wars is the fans, and you guys got to treat it like this. Well, Johnson didn't do that, I don't think, as much as people expected.
Right.
Which doesn't mean he made a bad movie. It just means he was completely not what the fans were thinking was going to happen. Brian, would you like to rehash? Can you pull the Band-Aid off? Is the wound too sore to revisit?
No. So my initial reaction was disappointment, which soon turned to anger. And for a lot of it is because The Force Awakens set up so many good questions, and so maybe this was a lot of our faults, but so then you build all these expectations. How much speculation was there about Snoke and Rey and just all these Luke and all these things that were going to happen because of all the questions that were set up by The Force Awakens. And then you go into The Last Jedi and you got these, these preconceived notions of what's going to happen or what should happen in your mind. And none of it happens. And so some of that, may be our fault, the fans' fault, but I do, the disappointment came from, number one, I'm a big Luke fan. My favorite character in the movie. So to see how he was portrayed in this movie, and obviously even Mark Hamill had a disagreement about it, which is well known, but it just didn't seem like the same Luke that I grew up with. And to have me wait all through Force Awakens to see Luke, and then going into Last Jedi, like finally I'm going to get to see him in action again. And the first thing he does is, throws the lightsaber and just how he acts through the whole movie. It's that bothered me.
Yeah.
The other thing was just, again, all the questions that were set up and, they were just tossed aside where Rian Johnson basically in a sense said it doesn't matter. And that bothered me. We didn't get an answer about Snoke as far as who he is, where he came from, why he hates the Jedi, none of his background. The Rey parent thing, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be from somebody, although it is kind of weird that the lightsaber was calling to her. And you heard Yoda talking to her and you heard Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that connection was never really explained, why that happened that way. But her parents don't have to be anybody. I'm okay with that.
They definitely made a point to lead the audience to believe that there was something special about the lightsaber, the connection between the lightsaber and her, which it could have been any lightsaber. It could have been any kyber crystal. Now, and at this point, there's fewer of them, I understand. But why did that particular lightsaber have to be so important?
Yeah, and it's that lightsaber has history. And so to me, it was like, and that's said several times in the movie, the past must die. Luke says it, and Kylo Kylo Ren says it. So I don't know. I felt like it kind of took like what a lot of fanboys loved about Star Wars and kind of said it doesn't matter. And then also the fact of a lot of the questions that were set up by The Force Awakens, it was just kind of tossed aside. And it was very clear to me that, you know, and I had said it all along when we were doing the Star Wars Rant podcast, that they didn't sit there and plan out this trilogy. It's okay. JJ has it now, or had it, you know, the first one. All right, Ryan, you pick it up. And now JJ has it again on the third one, you know, and it's just, you take it where you want to take it. And I don't think it should have been done that way. They should have planned the entire trilogy out. Not every detail. I know that can't happen, but the arcing story to where it kind of lines up. Because if you watch The Force Awakens and you go into The Last Jedi, it's a completely different tone. And like I said, a lot of the setups just kind of fall flat. Now that said, it is a very beautiful movie. It's very well done, as far as, you know, the cinematics of it. And there are things that I like about it. There's characters that I like about it. I like the DJ character. I like the Admiral Holdo character. You know, so there's things that I do like about it. There's moments in there that I did like, but, you know, I didn't get to see the things I wanted to see, like Luke actually in a real lightsaber battle. Him with his green lightsaber again. I know we saw it in flashback, but that's not the same thing. You know, so there's things that I was hoping for and I didn't get. Go ahead.
When we first talked about this in the Star Wars Rant podcast, which was like the week after, you made a comment that you actually liked this movie better than The Force Awakens. Now, for me, I said the second time I watched it, the more I watched it, I liked it a little bit better. And from our conversations, I feel like you have been on the opposite side, where the more you've watched it, the more you've actually disliked the movie.
I think, and I'd have to go back and listen to that. I think my criticism of The Force Awakens when I first saw that was that there wasn't enough story. It was like just a lot of action. And this one definitely gave you more story. So that part I appreciated. And I think that's why I liked it better than The Force Awakens, because plus I got to see Luke, I got to see Yoda, you know what I mean? I got some of my Star Wars, you know, stuff that I wanted. So I think I was coming at it more from that angle, but I was still walking out disappointed with where the story went.
We definitely got a lot more. When we talk about fan service, we got a lot more original characters. Yeah, I mean, you have Leia come back, you had Luke, you had R2, and C-3PO had bigger roles this time. You got to see the old projection of Leia, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope."
Yeah, that was cool.
You got a lot more of Chewie and the Millennium Falcon doing the fun stuff like that. So that I do feel like there was, I mean, and then Yoda, of course. So I feel like that was, I felt a lot more of the saga, I guess, in this than was in the last one, where we just had the mention of Luke, Han Solo, you know, a little bit of Leia, and then like the lightsaber with Chewie. Not with Chewie, but the lightsaber and Chewie. So I mean, I see where you're going. But so your second time around, though, do you still? So
I've seen it. I saw it twice in the theaters, and I've seen it, I think, 3 times at home now. One specifically was just because we were preparing for this. So, I'm one of those guys, I think, that's in the middle. Like when I watch it, there's parts I just absolutely hate. And there's parts I really like. I've grown to accept some things that initially turned me off before. And I think just in my mind, I kind of resolve it all by saying, you know, this is just the middle of the story. Let's see where it all ends up. And that kind of gives me some hope. And hopefully JJ puts a nice little bow on this thing.
Chad.
Yeah.
Let me have it.
Well, I think all of us are so similar because I felt the same way. I walked out of there, like you said, Dave, and I was dumbfounded almost, like, I didn't know how to feel. Whereas with Force Awakens, I was just ecstatic. Mm-hmm. And I think some of that goes back to what Isaac said too, is that from the Force Awakens, it had been a long time without any Star Wars. And it's been less amount of time without Star Wars to The Last Jedi. So maybe the excitement level isn't there when it was over. But I remember walking out going, that was Star Wars. That was fun. I liked it, but something like, it just something didn't feel right. Something didn't settle. And so you kind of digest it and think about it. And the Luke stuff I didn't enjoy, and some of the Canto Bight stuff just wasn't. It just didn't hit all the high notes like you. Again, maybe we overhyped it, like Brian said. We expected it to be something it could never live up to, but it just didn't hit all the high notes that I wanted it to. So disappointment, I guess, is probably the best word if you were to boil it down to one word that I felt walking out. But then after viewing it, I think I thought twice also in the theater, and then I've seen it numerous times at home. Every time I watch it, I like it more. Not to say that the things I didn't like, I'm okay with now, but it's just as a whole, the more I like it, or the more I watch it, the more I enjoy it. The high points are higher. The cinematography is fantastic. The red hues. You can see the poster behind me if you're watching the YouTube. They used red a lot, and obviously, there's a lot of the not Sith, but the Snoke and the Kylo Ren and the hate and the burning and all that stuff was they used it quite a bit, and it looked fantastic. It was beautiful. The lightsaber fight, one of the best in all of them, I think. And so as I continue to watch it more, I enjoy it more. And I think similar to what Brian just said, episode 9 might make us look back on episode 8 and go, hopefully that's what it does. It helps us to look back and think like, okay, I'm okay with that now since they did this.
That's part of that. That's part of the trilogy. Yeah. His job now is to not only write his movie, but he's got to tie it in.
Right.
And make sense to everything. So I'm sure that there's things that we don't see that they even talked about. Ryan's been pretty open about his thoughts since doing it, but I'm sure him and JJ will get together and specifically hit some things that Brian left open-ended stuff, and what his ideas are, just like JJ did. And JJ will decide whether or not he wants to leave it or take it and follow those directions. So,
and if they do that in areas that I want, aka Snoke, what's happening, if they satisfy my desires, then I will like it even more. But there's a lot of us out there that have different thoughts on a lot of different
there's this, we can get into this a little bit deeper later on when we talk about what we want to see happen. But a lot of people, they are upset with the Luke dying thing, but Luke is obviously not. He's obviously going to be in episode 9. Now that he's back in the fight, so to speak, and back connected with the Force now, like one with the living Force, as Qui-Gon talked about, he's going to continue communing and talking with Rey. One would assume, and play a big part. So I'm sure we'll hear even from him more of what happened. There's got to be. That's one of the things I think most fans wanted, was more of what happened to get us to the point we were. And instead of that, we just got, and it doesn't matter. Which that answer is fine for some of it. I'm completely fine with some of it. But come on, give us a little bit more about some of these things you set up. So you said the more you watch it, the more you like it.
Yeah.
Even this last time, you watched it last night.
I watched it last night, and I liked it. There were the parts I don't like, I still wasn't fond of, but like Brian said too, I kind of grown to accept them. I like the movie. I like watching it.
Excellent. Josh, I saved you for last because you are our resident not liker of Rogue One. The last video we made, the last Star Wars thing we made.
Yeah.
Josh was pretty down on Rogue One.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not a saga movie, it's an anthology movie. But the reason I left him for last is because he's kind of completely on the opposite side with The Last Jedi. I don't know if you've said that you absolutely loved or this is your favorite movie or whatever, but you do really like this movie.
I do. I really like it. First of all, happy 38th birthday to Empire Strikes Back.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yep.
The greatest movie ever made, and certainly the greatest Star Wars movie ever made, at least in my
100%. 100%.
I saw your comment where your buddy Ben said, greatest movie ever made?
He's a big
maybe science fiction, and you go, I stand by what I said.
He's a big cinemaphile, so he's a big movie guy, and he I'm sure has much better answers to why he thinks other movies are better. But Empire Strikes Back is and always will be my favorite movie ever. So having said that, like Empire Strikes Back has been on my mind a lot when thinking about The Last Jedi, because they're both the middle movie. Empire Strikes Back, when it came out, was overwhelmingly positively reviewed. There were some reviews that were like more middling than others, but everybody was really, really positive on it as far as like critics go. Fans obviously loved it. It had one of the biggest cinematic reveals in history, as far as plot points go. So to me, Empire Strikes Back and The Last Jedi do a lot of the same things, as far as taking what was started in the first movie in the trilogy and like shifting things to like this almost you get a sense through a lot of Empire Strikes Back and a lot of The Last Jedi that things are almost hopeless. The odds are overwhelming. And it's really, really dark.
Yeah, the similarities are striking because you just finished a movie where they blew up the big killer starbase.
Yeah.
Now you're in a movie where the Empire is not in a big starbase anymore, but they're in a giant ship.
Yep.
Basically running down the resistance or the rebellion. Yep. And it ends kind of on, oh, wow, everything's being destroyed. We just did this. A little bit different at the end, although there is a very similar Hoth battle scene on Crate.
Yes. Yeah, even some of the visuals. Yeah, some of the visuals were similar.
And that you might be able to say that's how Ryan paid tribute to the fans. Is mirroring.
I almost feel like that maybe some of what he was trying to do is like because in this three part, the first, second, third act, you have to have like at one point you have to have the tragedy, the fall, the darkest hour, before the dawn of the third movie. So I think that's a lot of what he was trying to do. Like as far as it to me, so I did really like it. When I left the theater, I wasn't sure exactly how to feel, but it wasn't because I was wondering if I didn't like it or not. It was because so like you guys know, and I think our listeners probably know, like I was on like total media blackout for Star Wars before the movie came out. Like I didn't want to see trailers. I didn't want to speculate. I just wanted to go into it blind and see what they did. So when I came out of it, I wasn't sure how to feel about it, but not because I wasn't sure if I liked it. It was because I wasn't expecting anything when I walked in. And then what Ryan did with this movie was not what I was expecting. But I really liked it. And it was along the lines of like sort of the direction I was hoping they would take the movie, but it was just like, it felt like very heavy. Like the whole movie felt very heavy. It wasn't as like a romp like the first one. Like it wasn't fun. There wasn't like a ton of that like great action. It was very like, it just felt very like heavy and sort of sad. Well, definitely sad at times. So, but I was hoping that what they were setting up with the first movie is, like the first movie was, hey, like old Star Wars fans, like we're going to do right by the saga. Don't worry. Like we'll take care of you. We're going to do some new stuff too. And so sort of what I was hoping they would do in the second movie is usher us into, okay, these are the characters we're dealing with. Don't worry about the old characters. Like we're done there. Like that story's been told. Which it did. And then, everything that Rian Johnson could have turned on its head, he did. Which I also kind of liked. I was hoping to just be totally taken by surprise. And I was kind of hoping the whole universe would just be sort of turned on its head and we would have no idea what's coming in episode 9. So, as far as like the few expectations I did allow myself to have, I feel like he lived up to it. But, as far as the other stuff, like I didn't really have a problem with them not explaining who Snoke was. In the original trilogy, nobody explained who the Emperor was. We didn't get that until the prequels. And it to me, that wasn't as big. That wasn't that big of a deal. I liked the fact that Snoke got killed off in the second movie, because now one of the things I was hoping for too is that Kylo would seem much more dangerous, and sort of just like could do anything. Mm-hmm. So I like the fact that he killed Snoke, because now he has essentially no master. And he's this immensely powerful, spoiled child, basically. And he could just do anything to anyone. So I think it makes him more interesting and dangerous. But I also like that Luke lost faith. Like, to me, heroes are much more interesting when they're flawed. It's why I like, like comic book characters like the Punisher, and such, Constantine and things like that. But I think they explained it well with like why he would lose faith and why he would really just want nothing to do with any of it anymore. And I think it also helped to teach Rey, who is like innocent and new to the whole thing, how much weight goes along with, you know, picking up this mantle and taking the fight to the Empire and, you know, like tapping into the Force and becoming, you know, part of that sort of heritage. Yeah. So overall, I really like the movie.
So the more you watch it, how many times have you seen it since?
I've only seen it twice. I've only seen it once since I saw it in the theater. But yeah, like, I mean, the second time I watched it with like knowing that I sort of felt all of that, the second time I watched it, I ended up liking it more. I don't think it's a perfect movie. The whole Canto Bight sequence to me I hated it. Like, to me, it was really, really pointless. It's the first time I've ever watched a Star Wars movie, even Rogue One, and felt like, wow, this is a really long movie.
Yeah.
And it felt really long to me because there were sections in it, like that Canto Bight sequence, that just didn't. There was no reason for it to be there. It seemed like.
Let's get into some of that. Let's get into some of that. Aside from like our initial reactions and all that stuff, I kind of wanted to hit on some key moments in the movie. We're not going to break it down scene by scene and all that stuff, but I kind of want this to be. I'm not going to go person by person and ask all your thoughts. Let's kind of just. Whoever wants to speak up. We'll talk about it, hash it out, and stuff like that. But let's go in order. Try to go as much in order of the movie as we did. So, opening scene, you know, you've got Poe coming back. We see Poe, the Resistance fighter, who was a real awesome dude in the first movie. Great new character to the saga. He shows up in his little modified TIE X-wing, and he's heading towards the was it the Dreadnought or was it? Yeah, he's heading towards the Dreadnought. You've got Leia in the main cruiser of the Resistance, basically talking to him, and it sounds like they got some plan. They're trying to buy time for the ships to get off of this planet, which is where we left them in The Force Awakens. After Rey hugs Leia, she goes off to find Luke. That's the planet they're on. This is supposed to be literally maybe a day later, 2 days later. It's not supposed to be much long after that at all. I think maybe we're thinking however long it took Rey to get from that planet to Ahch-To is about how long it took. We're in real time. The First Order probably showed up there before she got to Ahch-To, so not long at all.
Yeah. So
they're bringing the ships up. They get the last one up. They're firing down. So Poe is deciding to go against Leia's orders and do one last ditch effort or whatever, one cool thing. So what everybody think of that huge battle, the bombers dropping down and stuff like that. Rose's sister, who we didn't know was Rose's sister at that moment, but we later find out is Rose's sister. And then basically getting back on the ship and Leia scolding Poe. And Finn waking up.
Yeah, naked bag leaking. I liked Poe flying around. They showed more of his piloting skills. The whole Hux, I'm on hold for General Hux. Pale guy, pasty, he has a message about your mother.
It might have went a little long,
far.
But that's Poe. That is his.
And that's fine. That was fine. It was like, at that point, it was like the way Hux was reacting. Like, can he hear me? Yeah. Like they were really on a phone call. Was a little much. But all right. The best though was him flying at those cannons and taking those cannons out one by one. The sound, just the audio part of it, the explosions,
the weight and the physics they gave the X-wing when he pulled the U-turn.
When that last one blew up and he pulled the stick back and like pushed his hand on the window.
That same thing kind of happened with the Falcon in the Force.
I was just going to say that was one of my favorite things about the Force Awakens was the way they treated the Falcon and the way it flies.
Right,
it's so cool.
So I enjoyed that part of it, him blowing all those up and bringing the bombs in. That was cool. Some people had issues with bombs falling in space and how, whatever,
but there's no reason they couldn't be pushed. Yeah.
Right. They were pushed out and they just continued on.
And in the visual dictionary, they talk about how that clip, they actually call it a clip in those things, is magnetized and it propels the bombs
in a direction.
Space. So obviously, you know, once you're in space, you know, if you threw a
You just
tennis
keep
ball
going.
arrow, I can just keep going.
Right.
So that's exactly what happened.
I like that part. I thought that was fun. Good way to start the movie, I thought.
Yeah, I was a big fan. The only thing, and this is like throughout the movie, kind of like you were saying, Chad, with Hux and Poe, like that relationship, like in that first sequence, it sort of sets Hux up, and he doesn't really get any scarier at any point throughout episode 8.
Seems like an idiot, kind of, right?
And he was in episode 7. I thought he was terrifying. To me, he was almost more terrifying than Kylo, because like Kylo wasn't like super terrifying in episode 7. He was just like, oh, he's probably pretty dangerous, but we didn't really see like the full extent of his like mania.
In Force Awakens, they were almost portrayed as equals.
Yeah, and Hux was like, when he's given that like speech to the First Order, on Starkiller Base, and he's like foaming at the mouth almost, and he's like this maniacal rant, and then to see him in episode 8, and he seems like
he's smashed onto the floor, by a hologram projection.
Yep. And he seems whipped in episode 8, and I was hoping for more scary Hux.
I think they kind of had to do that, knowing where they were going with the story in that episode. That, you know, they had to show him being undermined so that it's believable. Then when Kylo then takes charge, and because otherwise, because that Hux from episode 7 would, you know, he would have put up a fight, and maybe he will try to do something in the next one, you know, covertly.
Well, you saw him grab his gun. He wanted to end Kylo if he had the chance. And you hear Snoke refer to him, I think, as a rabid cur. Is that what he calls him?
A dog.
A rabid dog. The good thing about having one of those. You know, and just the way that he's been manipulating them all, that whole thing was the way. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Hux make a power play later, but because we know that there's that root of
he's a bad man.
Yeah,
he killed his own father.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing we learned in the visual dictionary, he killed his own father.
Yeah, him and Phasma.
To get promoted, you know. So there's something about him that is still terrifying. A lot of unknowns.
I think one thing that added to that was Kylo is portrayed as an unstable child, and then you find out who he's related to. So it's almost like he's not chaotic bad just yet. He's still in that chaotic neutral, leaning that way, trying to get that way. And then you really don't see how dangerous of a person or what he's willing to do until he kills his own father. And they show that part. You don't know that about Hux. But I mean, like, Hux is immediately put in that position where he's just like, you know what, we're trying to kill everybody we can. We're trying to take over the world. Kylo doesn't seem like he shares that sentiment until later on. Kylo's more like force focused, if that makes sense.
Kylo's more like, I don't want to take over anything. I want to start something new.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that.
So so we got that scene's incredible. And anytime I miss something that you guys want to talk about, speak up. But let's jump to the planet Octu, right? We've got Rey back in that scene where she pulls out the lightsaber. She hands it to Luke. Luke turns around. He looks at it. He takes it. You see his mechanical hand back in that mode where, okay, he's got the lightsaber back in his hands. We immediately flashbacks start coming back, all right? I mean, to me as a viewer, back in Obi-Wan Kenobi's hut, he's pulling out the lightsaber. He's hearing the story about his dad, great, soldier in the Clone Wars. Looking at it, he's gone through all the way to Bespin City, fighting Darth Vader, who at that point he still doesn't even know is his father. Loses it. Now he's got it back. This lightsaber should mean a lot to him. And everybody's waiting to see what he's going to do, what he's going to say. The music's swelling, building. All of a sudden, dead silence, throws it over his shoulder. At that point, we don't know, did that just go over the edge? Is that gone? What just happened?
Audibly gasped in the theater.
Yeah,
I did too.
Couple chuckles.
I hated it. All they had to do, like, fine, if you want to go with that story that he doesn't want to be a part of this anymore, like, just hand it back to her and be like, say something. I don't want this, or I don't, you keep it, or something like that. But it came off really cheesy to me too. Like, that's not Luke. Like, I hated that.
I almost felt like in that moment, like, yes, he's lost his faith. He wants nothing to do with any of it. Like, he's done, because he almost feels like he may be more dangerous than helpful. and he's jaded at this point. But I almost felt like him tossing it was also like to Rey, like nobody should have this. You shouldn't be getting into this either. Like leave everything and just walk away. Like that's what I got from that. Like he wasn't just refusing, he was also telling Rey, don't do this. Like you don't want to get into this.
It definitely sets up the question of where in the world or in the galaxy or whatever, where is Luke mentally? Like what is he thinking to where he would just be this flippant? And because we're just getting into that, we haven't even heard him speak yet.
Right. It's Luke Skywalker, Master Jedi. Luke Skywalker is back. He's gonna do some awesome things.
The guy that was so hopeful and so just bent in a good way on becoming a Jedi, like his father before him.
Never turned to the dark side. And he's gonna die trying to redeem his father because he can feel the good in him and fight for this cause and all this stuff before. Then we got this 30-year gap where we've heard just a little bit. Okay, so Luke trained these Jedis and my son, and he turned and now he just forgot it all. Yeah, that's basically all we have. And so now we realize, oh wow, this is pretty much true. He just threw it over his shoulder.
When was Luke granted the rank of master?
He probably gave it to himself. There's no one else around to say no.
But this is this is almost Luke and Dagobah meeting Yoda, who was like this crazy miser, who at first was like, "Get out! I'm not training you. You're too old." Like, was trying to find every excuse in the book, and it finally took Obi-Wan to convince Yoda, "You need to do this." So again, like to me it fit, and I liked that. Like Luke's probably been on his own for a very long time and probably started to also go crazy a little bit, as we see later when he's drinking green milk.
Would it have been better and more fitting if in the middle of this movie, all of a sudden Luke started going
100%.
Stop. So something that this brings to mind is the comedic relief in 8 isn't as good as 7.
Yeah,
that's true.
And I mean, I don't know if they did that on purpose, like Josh said. It was a much darker film.
Somber tone,
it's supposed to be where they fall behind and they lose the advantage or whatever. But that is something like the whole.
Some of the humor was a little bit oddly placed too. Like it was funny when they showed what we thought was a ship landing, and then it was the iron.
I felt like I was watching Spaceballs.
I was kind of like, really, it's a little cheesy, just a little bit.
Yeah. Jam their radar.
So he throws the lightsaber over, and at this point, he's just walking away. Rey's trying to talk to him. He won't say anything really. He goes into his hut, shuts the door. She's out there trying to, talk him into it. Chewie kicks down the door. All of a sudden, Luke realizes Chewie's here. Well, I haven't seen Chewie in forever, and then realizes, wait a second, where's Han? And that's all we get, other than Luke sitting in the Millennium Falcon grabbing the stuff, which a lot of people had an issue with. And there's good sides and bad sides to this argument. We didn't see Luke mourning over Han as much as we thought we might, especially since being cut off from the Force, he wasn't supposed to know that he had died. So he didn't have any moment up until seeing Chewie walk in without Han. So what did everybody think about that? Did they do it well? Could they? Because there were some scenes shot, I think, of I think it's actually in the deleted scene where I think he's sitting in his hut still. Mm-hmm. I can't remember exactly what happened, but yeah, he's in there. I think he actually it shows him sitting at the table, basically not meditating in the Force, but thinking about it, and then it goes to Leia, who's doing the same thing on the ship. That wasn't a Force connection thing because he was cut off still at that point.
But they did a comic version of The Last Jedi written from Luke's perspective on Act 2, and it shows Chewie knocking down the door, and he's like, "Where's Han?" And Rey tells him he was killed by Kylo Ren, and he has the inner monologue, says, I would have known, I would have felt it if I hadn't. And he kind of like ... And then Chewbacca growls at him, goes up and hugs him. Like he hugs Luke from like over his shoulders and grabs him. And Luke says, it's all right, Chewie. And that's all they get for that. But
well, you know, like when you watch the movie that, you know, he says, wait, where's Han? And then it's like a cut scene and it goes to another part of the movie. And then you come back and, you know, Luke's kind of sitting down on the ground and she's like, yeah, there's no good left in Kylo Ren. So you kind of miss the whole part where she tells him. So I think you just kind of reason in your mind, like, kind of had that moment then.
Even that little bit of insight that Chad gives with the comic, which you can't, I mean, it's really hard to do in live action movie like that, like the thought, here's his thoughts and monologue. But just knowing that it plays into Luke's character where he's still torn back and forth. He's still, man, he's when we meet him, he's in his Jedi garb, right? Basically doing the last rite from the visual dictionary. We see that he's like, basically, he's putting an end to the Jedi Order in like a orderly way, like almost a methodical way, like it's tradition to do it this way or something. But then, according to this novelization or comic version, which is canon, he's thinking, man, if I hadn't have cut myself off, I would have known. Maybe I could have, you know, which is interesting to know that he would think that. But that's, you know, again, we can go back to our argument. You shouldn't have to read the comics or read a book to feel that in the movie. So while this is happening, Finn is getting ready to leave the rebellion to go, or the resistance to go find Rey. That's the first thing he did when he woke up. Where's Rey? Because you know, the last thing he remembered was fighting Kylo Ren and blacking out.
Yeah.
So he gets up. He's getting ready to essentially to the new character Rose. He seems like he's bailing on them, which I was almost rooting for Finn in that moment. Like, no, he's not bailing. Like, why did you shock you? He's not abandoning ship. He's going to look for his friend. He's going to look for Rey. I mean, you know so much about him. You're basically, you know, fawning over him, but you don't mention anything about Rey. I mean, obviously she would have to know about Rey and what he was doing. So she shocks him. In that dialogue they come up with the idea of, wait a second, you know, our minds kind of think alike because we're both in janitorial services or whatever. This is what we need to do to crack this problem with hyperdrive tracking and all of that stuff. So they come up with this whole plan. They talk to Poe, who has been at this point already, he's met Holdo, right?
Yeah.
This has already happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Leia is Leia already unconscious? Do we already have that fight? Did I already go over that? That has not happened yet. Okay. That's right, because Leia is sitting and they're just about to drop out of hyperspace, and they shoot Poe and Rose out while they're in hyperspace in the middle of that thing. Don't they just shoot them out of the... I can't remember. Whatever, doesn't matter. So we're getting ready to go to the Canto Bite plot. That's basically all I'm saying. So Rey and Luke are doing their stuff. Finn and Poe take off to go find the code breaker in Canto Bite, which has been talked about online and everything about how this is basically a political statement, blah, 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 which, I mean, it is and it isn't. I don't think it was written in there to be a political statement against what's going on in the real world today. I think that is just basically written in there to show how the resistance is really this tyrannical thing. This is like what basically a spilling over of the Empire. What the Empire is designed to just basically oppress and monopolize and, you know, put money in people's pockets and all that kind of stuff. Here's this idea. Now, does this, in my opinion, this whole entire thing was like, we could have come up with could we not have come up with a better plot point to get to this point? But I do want to say the hope that we talk about at the end of this movie with the little kid with the broomstick doesn't happen without this plot point, this story, because this is seeing what Finn and Rose do and the little ring, the resistance ring, and everything, and finding letting all those weird camel creatures or whatever out, camel horse creatures. That's what makes these kids think, oh yeah, And then of course hearing the story of Luke at the end, they do hear that story because you see them playing with the toys and
for me, I just think it like that scene. Like I get all that. Like I get, you needed to set up the little boy because they want to show him again at the end and show that the Force, can be used and build that hope again, all that stuff. But for me, it was just like a lot of the stuff inside the casino. Like I hated a lot of the characters that I saw in there, like that little hairy guy, the drunk hairy guy, and and that like opera fat lady thing singing at the end when they were running through, and I didn't like any of that stuff, and I didn't like the way it looked. Yeah, and then like the BB-8, shooting his coins at the guards or whatever, and it was just like there's a lot of cheesy moments in there that I did not like at all.
The coin thing I particularly disliked. I did not like that, and I called it too in my mind. I didn't say it out loud because I was by myself, and I was alone in the theater with a bunch of other people. I didn't go with anybody the first time, but I do remember seeing all the coins being fed. First of all, I'm thinking, how is there just a slot that coins fit into BB-8?
It's like a hollow
like this, empty space in there.
It's like, this is kind of crazy. And then you could hear them in him. Yeah. So I knew at that point, these coins are going to come shooting out. They're going, and then the fact that he has the ability. Now, granted, R2-D2 is like the Swiss Army knife of robots. So, we have to like lend that credit,
Sure.
that ability to BB-8 as well, but shooting coins at a guy and knocking him out almost.
He shoots out.
Huh?
Did you see how many he shoots out? Like, how long did he sit there and let this guy?
He just stood there with them.
And like, how would that like? They didn't seem like they're like flying like super quick. Like, I don't see how that would like disable somebody either. Like,
disable them enough for what's his name? What's his initials? DJ to knock him out with his boots.
Yeah, man.
Now, the whole Cenobite thing for me seemed it was way long, way too long. Like Josh said, it almost sounds cliche to say this, but it was very prequelish. Like as far as a criticism of the prequels being way too much CGI in this day and age, 2017, 2018, CGI has been done very, very well. In this same movie, Snoke is done extremely well.
Yep.
But when you put so much of it,
it's too much.
Together, it stands out as oh man, that's and we're watching Star Wars, so we know 90% of what we see is not real.
Yeah. The only good thing about that
is real.
The only good thing about that scene was DJ, like being introduced to DJ. I know a lot of people didn't like him. I really liked that character.
I really hope he plays a bigger role.
I would like to see him again. I liked how he showed Finn like, hey, both sides are having an advantage from this war. They're building ships for people are building ships for the Resistance and the First Order.
And I really like how Finn says you're wrong, and he goes, maybe.
Yeah.
Like he's not.
Well, he
says bad, he is not good.
Yeah, you blow
on purpose stays neutral.
Yeah, they kill you today, you blow them up tomorrow, or whatever he says at the end there. Like, it was great. I love that character.
What's his thing? Do not join. That's just his moniker for DJ.
Yeah, don't join.
Basically, don't join in or something like that.
Free. Yeah, live free.
Don't join. That's it.
Yeah, that whole sequence, like that, I love that piece of it where they're showing. To me, that's the smart way to talk like Star Wars politics in a Star Wars movie, not like the prequels went so heavy on politics at times. It was like a
whole other argument, but the whole idea of the prequel, the whole story of getting to where we were in episode 4 was a story of politics.
It was politics, yeah, but like you don't expect it to be like it was almost boring at times in the prequels. And to me, this is the perfect way to bring politics into discussion in a Star Wars movie, to say, not everything's always black and white. Not everything's always good and bad. Like there's good and bad all like across the board, all over the place. So I thought that was smart, and I really like that they're bringing that dimension into it. But I mean, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not a screenwriter, but
what?
So I don't have a better side plot for them to introduce all of this stuff. But I do. There had to be a better.
Well, think about it like this: it's a Disney movie, and as much as critics of the prequel, I hate to say it, that these movies were always intended to be towards kids. When they first came out, we loved them. We were part of the reason why so many people say, George Lucas raped our childhood is because now they're 20, 30-year-old men. And it's just a little, I mean, as much as we want it to be exactly what we want now, that's a big difference in what we liked then and what there's a point why most young people love the prequels. Most kids that grew up with the prequels love the prequels, and they don't have an issue with them. And most kids that you're going to talk to today that watch The Last Jedi absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. No, because they don't have expectations of what they want to see and all that stuff. Yeah. So going into Canto Bight, it would have been much cooler to us if, like, say, they went there, you see all this greed, all this lascivious living, if I said that word right, and you realize, oh, these are warmongers. These are, Tony Starks, if they hadn't have seen the error of their ways and turned into Iron Man, it became like the coolest superhero.
Well done.
So if we would have seen Finn and Rose like develop a plan where they actually in a more violent way destroyed this, might have made more sense. But you can't, as Rian Johnson, you have to find a way for them, like for them to destroy the city by riding through these by jumping around in these animals. Yeah. I mean, it's a way where you destroy it without seeing them murder people, basically.
And to me, it would have seemed better too if there was ramifications beyond just that one scene, because they didn't really do much with that information once they moved past that. Mm-hmm. And to maybe have one of them like come back, or both of them come back and confront Leia or Holdo with that information and say, are you aware that this is what's going on? Yeah. Why would you allow this? Like, to bring that back into like the larger scheme of things and really like tackle some of that stuff. Maybe they'll do that in episode 9.
Well,
but
Josh, I don't know if you remember, but she took the saddle off of that one. And that's what made it worth it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Now it's worth it.
I forgot about that.
Those guys in those flying ships with spotlights.
They'll never catch
saw
them
those again ever.
Because the saddle fell off.
Yeah, that's right. Because they were born in captivity. They didn't go out and catch them.
Forever.
Yeah, completely forgot where did we find these and how did we catch them?
Yeah.
All of that's destroyed. No way will ever
an entire economy based on the oppression of wild animals is destroyed because they can't figure out how to catch them again.
What you didn't see was after they took off, that planet exploded.
Yeah.
I say now those poor slave children have no jobs now.
Yeah.
So, well done.
I can't wait to hear Josh's reaction when they have the prequels to 7, 8, and 9 of these animals and how they were brought into Canto Bight.
Wait, does anybody seriously know without looking what those animals were called? I can't remember.
Fathiers.
So let's have the great Fathier races of episode 1 of the prequels to the new trilogy.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we get done with the Canto Bight scene. They're on the way back. They didn't get the code breaker they were looking for. They got DJ, who at this point seems like a really cool dude, right? He stole the ship. He's helped them. Obviously, we know he's helping himself, which is the exact same way that Han Solo did when he came into the franchise in episode 4. He's going to help himself. Put a little coin in his pocket, drop these guys off, get sucked into the Star Destroyer or the Death Star, yada, yada. Well, in the meantime, DJ is filtering off some type of communications to the New Order or the First Order and kind of telling them their whole plan, since Finn and Rose are just openly talking. This new guy they just met in jail, they're just talking about their plan in front of him. So that's happening. Jump back to Rey and Luke. she's talked him in finally to a little bit of training. He takes her up to the basically the first Jedi temple is what we learn in the visual dictionary. It shows the mosaic of what they call the Prime Jedi, who is the first Jedi, perfect balance of dark and light, which is something we never really dealt with in the original trilogy or the prequels. The balance, they mention the balance all the time, but they don't ever mention the idea and the very simple idea that the balance is of good and evil. It's not all evil. It's not all good. It's a balance. So they start talking about that more in this movie. And that's one of the training things when she's sitting on the rock after he has her put her hand out and he, plays with the little reed, which I thought that was good humor.
That was good humor.
I thought that was cool.
I agree.
So he tells her about the balance. What do you feel? What do you see? And she, life, death, the blah, 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 balance. She sees the dark side place of this island, much like the Dagobah cave on Dagobah. And she feels it. It's calling to her. Luke says, resist it. She just goes right to it. She just lets it consume her. She wakes up and Luke is standing there basically in shock and says out loud, you just went straight to the dark. Like you didn't even try to resist it. She said, oh, it was showing me something. And as Isaac pointed out yesterday, he said, yeah, it offered you something you needed and you just went straight to it. You didn't even resist. And so he's visibly upset. And this is the line that we got in the trailer that they didn't say was they left out the Ben part, but he says, I've only seen this raw strength once before in Ben Solo. It didn't scare me enough then, but it does now. And so this is already after he's agreed to start training her. So he goes back, they talk a little bit more. You jump back to the big fight scene where Leia gets sucked out into space. Am I missing anything before we get to this part? Because this is another point of contention with a lot of fans. Anything you guys want to talk about before we talk about Leia? Okay, so they finally get pulled out, or they drop out of hyperspace. The Resistance, or I keep switching these guys. The First Order has followed them. They're right back on their heels. Start, barrage fire on them, on top of them. And this is where we learned that the two big vehicles on either side are just like evenly matched at speed, at not warp speed, and they can only just move at the same distance in front of each other. And the shields on the Resistance ship are enough to keep them from getting blown out of the sky. And then you've got the whole Holdo thing is happening with while she or that happens we'll get to that in a second. That happens after Leia. So they attack them, right? They start fighting. And this might happen before my timelines are mixed up. So you've got Kylo, who's out in his ship again, his cool what's it called? What's his TIE fighter called?
I don't remember the exact terminology they use. It's specifically designed for him.
It's really cool. So he's back in the position again where, do I kill my mother, my father, my parent? Do I kill somebody that I love? Because you've got the scene from what we see, we're led to believe that there's the connections there. She knows he's there. He knows she's there. He's got his thumbs on the trigger. We saw it in the trailer. We didn't know if he's going to do it. He pulls his thumbs back. He clearly decides not to do it. He hesitates, and then one of his wingmen shoot and just completely blow up the bridge. Everybody that's in it gets sucked out into space. You see Kylo's face, kind of like the air gets pulled out of him. Almost like he's, he lucked out. He didn't have to make the decision himself. She's gone. Or, at least he thinks so. And it shows Leia out in space. Her skin starts to crystallize as she's starting to freeze. Countless people on the internet have listed all kinds of technical data on what happens once you're out in space. So there's different ideas of what would happen. Her skin would start to bloat up, because the oxygen instantly is whatever. What happens here is that she looks dead. All of a sudden, her hand starts to move. Her eyes open. Really weird looking stuff. Really just strange looking. and her hand starts to do the force thing, and her body just starts moving, and then gradually goes faster, almost like the scene from Batman v Superman, where Superman's out in space and he's out there flying around suspended, and just goes back to the ship, and then they see her coming back. Her hand hits the glass, and the door opens, and they pull her in. Now, forget the fact that she was out there for whatever. I mean, there's some people that say scientifically she could have survived. So whatever. Let's just pretend that doesn't exist. Let's pretend that the fact that any type of magnetic field that would have stopped all of them from being sucked out of the ship once that door opened, being destroyed in that blast, is gone. Let's pretend that that's not there. What did you think of the actual act of her using the Force, and in the way she used the Force? What do you guys think? What was your take? Isaac, I see a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Brian is still not. I don't think he's breathing yet.
I think it was. My only thing was it just looked goofy, like the way they had her positioned and the way she was floating through the air. Visually it looked odd. I don't mind that it happened.
A familiar description has been Mary Poppins.
Yeah, Mary Poppins or a witch or something like that. Now, I did hear Ryan Johnson say in an interview about that scene that, you have to keep in mind that there's less resistance in space. So should have been very easy for her to just do that, pull herself over to the ship. But and the reason why I'm okay with it, though, is because to me, obviously we know she's a Force user. She's a Skywalker. And I think in that instance, like her Force instinct basically like kicked in and allowed her to do that. Yeah. And I allow that in my mind too. The Force is what kept her alive in that situation as well. But I just think it was shot goofy, like the way it was just a bad angle or something. It just looked goofy.
Now we heard before this movie even released, upon the death of Carrie Fisher, they said no scenes have been reshot.
Yeah.
They didn't, as far as I know, they didn't edit anything. After having seen this, do we think they should have, or do you think everything should have been left as is?
I thought she was dead. Like initially watching that, I'm like, wow, they killed her right away. Like that was my initial thought. And I was like, I was okay with that, thinking that initially that this is how they're going to do her. This is how they're going to kill her off. Obviously she's dead in real life. So wow, I was shocked. But I was like, wow, good job. That was good. I was okay with that.
I thought the same thing. Like, wow, this is how they're going to do it.
Yeah. And then similarly,
caught me off guard.
Yeah, totally. To Brian, how she pulled it in. It was a goofy way. I think it would have been, if you want to show her strength in the Force, which I think would have been a good time to do it. She should have pulled the ship towards her or something, or she should have done a Star Killer from The Force Unleashed, where he pulls the entire.
Well,
I know, but she's done some training with Luke. What's that?
Right, but I mean, obviously, yeah, you have to assume that Leia made a conscious decision to focus more on her military stuff. But you also have to assume she got some training from Luke. Absolutely got some training. But to where she could pull,
or maybe that they came together and met to where she just put her hand out and floated.
I think her doing that was pulling. She was just
herself
because she was so much smaller. Yeah. It makes far more sense for her to pull herself to the ship.
Visually, it would have been more impactful if it didn't look like she was just pointing and floating in that direction. But if there was some strain either on the ship or herself where it was work, regardless of how easy it is to go through, it would have showed more power than just yandoing himself, herself from one point to another. It just works much better if there's
a great term. Yeah, I took it the same way. So first of all, I didn't have a problem with her staying alive in the vacuum of space. Like scientifically, that is entirely possible. And I also took it when she did that she was. It made sense to me that if people can pull things to themselves with the Force, the same.
Maybe they could have shown
whether she's pulling the ship or pulling herself to the ship. But
yeah, maybe they could have shown some of the ship that was broken apart, bend a little bit, as
Yeah.
she reached to it, as she
Mhm.
grabbed it.
Yeah.
Which could have signified, oh, she's,
But
she's using the Force.
in any case, it did look. It looked not good.
Well, what about the fact that she's dead in real life? So at some point you have to write her out of the story. Now you just faked death to her, to where everyone thought she was dead. Now she's alive, but everyone knows she has to be dead again real soon.
See,
So I was still wondering, is she still gonna die in this movie?
I liked that they didn't kill her in the movie. It's just to her as a person,
Right.
and not just her character. To her as a person, I felt like it was more respectful of her and her character to not kill her in the movie, and then they could just say, like, at some point between
Off
8
screen.
and 9, she passed away.
I totally agree with that.
And now there's new leadership.
Yeah,
So
but
The only thing I think is weird is that maybe they should have not had her make us
Almost
think she
died.
died in the
Yeah.
movie.
to me was like more exploration of like what the Force does, how people use the Force, like because this movie we saw a bunch of things that the Force
Weird
can
things,
do.
yeah.
So Ryan Johnson said he didn't want to change what happens to her in the movie because of her performance, and he wanted to
Respect.
respect that.
Yeah.
And then also the thing too, like if they said, okay, you know what, this is a perfect moment, so let's just end it here with her because we had this in the story anyway. Let's just use that. You would have never got Luke and Leia together.
Yeah, it's true.
The movie, and that would have made people angry. I can tell you that, because you already didn't get Luke with Han. Now you're gonna have Luke miss out.
I still thought we
Leia.
were going to get a Han Luke flashback. Something like when Maz is like, so tell me about the girl. I thought, okay, yeah, we're going to see a flashback with Han. He's going to tell her, and this is what happened. I'm still mad we didn't get to see the three of them together one more time. That would have been so awesome, but we didn't.
I think what bothered me the most was, they make you think that she's dead. It's very similar to what happened with Iron Man in Infinity War. It's like everybody's like, what?
I just saw that movie. Good
Isaac.
Spoiler alert, sorry.
That one just came out.
Whatever.
It's been a couple weeks.
I literally just saw it.
I'm a guest. I can say whatever I want.
Isaac,
Yeah,
you mean when
Isaac.
Iron Man does or does not die?
Correct.
Not like this.
So it's like, why would you?
We have to put Infinity War spoilers on this.
This is gonna be the longest title ever. E3 predictions / Star Wars Last Jedi review. But it's like, why would you elicit that response from your audience? Not one, it's a mainline character that is portrayed, you're made to think that she's dead. Okay, because we knew it was gonna happen. We were expecting it, and then it's just like, she had just passed away not too long ago. And then you're like, well, actually, you know what? Hold on. We're bringing her back with this hokey force pull to the ship move. It's like, why jerk your audience around like that? It's like the same reason
right there.
It's like the same
Hokey
reason I stopped
religions.
watching The Walking Dead, because
What?
it's like,
Now we're gonna spoil this.
Whoa.
I mean, I haven't seen The Walking Dead since like season 6, because what they do at the end of like every episode and every season, it's like something happens or like something's about to happen, and then they cut it off. And it's just like, why do that? What was the point of that? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
To show that she's a Force user.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they wanted to show she was a Force user. Yeah.
So then why not show her like
moving
holding
pencil
the door
across the table?
closed or some kind
But
of
see,
force field
you
or
got to
whatever.
remember too, though, they had plans for her for episode 9. Episode 9 was going to be her movie, so and
Does that make you mad, Brian, that this was Luke's movie?
Of course.
okay, so I'm okay with what happened to Luke at the end of the movie as far as him dying. Like I'm okay with that. I just didn't like how they treated him through the whole movie. So am I mad that it's his movie and they didn't represent the character the way I wanted? Yeah, I was still a little bitter, but one thing I saw, and this kind of helps me a little bit, and this may be bad storytelling if I have to like understand the story better through an interview, but an interview with Ryan, it pressed more about Luke and how, the reason why he was the way he was is because about the Jedi needs to end and so on and so forth. He was blaming a lot of what happened with Kylo going to the dark side and so on and so forth. He was blaming that on the religion, the Jedi religion, and the fact of him being a quote unquote legend. And he thought nobody should be a legend like that anymore. And, this religion, isn't working. But what he didn't understand was the reason why these things happen is not because of the Jedi religion or that because he was a quote unquote legend. It was because of the mistakes that he made, and he wasn't owning up to his mistakes. And once he kind of realizes like, this is on me and this is something I have to deal with. And by him removing himself from the scene, it created a vacuum to where there is no more hope anymore. There's no more Jedi religion. There is no more Jedis walking around. And in essence, they're saying you do still need the Jedi. That's why at the end of the movie, he says the Jedi aren't dead. You still need the Jedi. You still need those legends because it brings hope to the galaxy. And so like when I heard it put that way from Rian Johnson, like I can kind of accept some of that a little better.
Well,
but I didn't catch that when I was watching the movie completely.
When Yoda shows up on Ahch-To and tells Luke, like it doesn't matter if this tree is destroyed or not. I mean, I feel like it kind of touches that same idea.
Yeah.
Failures are your best teacher.
Yeah, so we can get to that too in a second. So aside from the Leia thing, okay, we're not really fans of that. But jumping back to Ahch-To, while this is all going on, because we're jumping all over the place. Luke at some point, Luke tells Rey his version of what happened between him and Ben Solo back during his Jedi Temple days, and what we got was Luke basically explaining that he, in a moment, saw the power, saw the darkness, the potential disaster or potential travesty in Ben's life. And for a split moment, thought about striking down his own nephew with his lightsaber while he slept. A lot of people have some issue with this, and I have to admit, the Luke Skywalker I knew, and I know we're making the case that he's different now, he's changed. In the original trilogy, he went the whole third movie to redeem his father. Once he found out Darth Vader was his father, spoilers, Empire Strikes Back, 38 years ago. When he found that out, his entire goal was to redeem his father. I feel the good in you. I feel the conflict in you. Let go of your hate. I know there's still good in you. You're not going to kill me. You're not going to strike me down. And he stands face to face with the Emperor, defies him to his face, fights Vader until the point where he could give him the final blow, and then decides, no, well, like, what am I doing? No, this isn't what I am. This isn't where I want to go. And no, throws his lightsaber away and almost gets killed if it wasn't for basically Anakin Skywalker coming back, getting the upper hand over Vader and tossing the Emperor over. So now you've got Luke, who in a sense should be far wiser. And it's okay if he's still conflicted a little bit, but now he's seeing young Kylo, young Ben, who's not done anything yet. I mean, Anakin murdered children. Anakin murdered countless Jedi, countless people, responsible for even more. But he could be turned. But here Luke is, and now I guess the arguments could be that, well, if I stop him now, then none of that stuff that happened, stuff like my father did, will even have a chance of happening. I can just put it into it now. But then he does realize, no, I don't, at least from Luke's view, because we have the two views. Kylo says, no, that's not how it happened. This is how it happened. And of course, we're leaning more towards believing Luke. But, do we really know what happened? Because this is a flashback from two different perspectives. What do you guys think of Luke almost killing Ben in his sleep? The only scene we see with him actually holding a lightsaber, his green lightsaber, we're assuming from Return of the Jedi, even though he threw it down it sounded like he threw it down the shaft in the Death Star, second Death Star. So I don't know if that's a new green lightsaber. I'm curious to know that. That's just a little trivia. That would be cool. What do you guys think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think that that's a good reason for him to completely abandon everything?
I thought it was pretty good. I think it lends to his inexperience as a Jedi, self-granted Jedi Master title. So when he later laments, how he was this legend and he was, Luke Skywalker, it then shows that he was in over his head trying to do something, trying to bring back or reestablish the Jedi.
Yeah.
So it like I
How
said,
dare
it
you?
shows.
How dare you? In over his head. Who are you? Who are you to say that?
It shows the human side of him because, in Empire, he's, he technically loses the fight to Darth Vader and the Emperor. But he comes out victorious because the mission was accomplished,
Yeah, I always like saying that was to Luke a suicide mission.
Right.
It was turn my father or die. That's what's happening here. Because he knew either way, he believed 100% in Han and Leia in the rebellion that they were going to accomplish what they were doing. He never faltered in his hope in his friends. One of the things that Emperor Palpatine said is your overconfidence is your weakness.
I'm gonna be honest, Dave. I didn't
Faith in
even
your friends.
I didn't even think about the fact of him, him killing his own blood, so on and so forth with Kylo, until you mentioned it never even crossed my mind. And it is the more I think about it, since you've said it is like a departure from his character, because you would think the Luke from the original trilogy would then say, no, I see this happening and I'm going to
fight harder to get him.
Right. Yeah. I never even thought about that though. Huh.
But so what I thought about that was, with his father, it's like, what did it come to? He rescued him from the dark side, but then he died. So it's like, do you think he was going to try to avoid all that heartache down the road and just end it there? Like thinking, okay, I'm in leadership now. Is this what I should do right now?
As a Jedi.
Yeah, because it's like, so if I can't stop it and he goes to the dark side, am I going to want to have to fight him down the road? How much harder is that battle going to be?
See, one of the things that he was telling Rey in one of the deleted scenes is that the Jedi tell you not to intervene unless you can keep peace. There was a scene where he kind of fibs to her and she sees these ships coming in, the little maidens or whatever, alien maidens on Ahch-To are having a party, and she sees some ships with torches on their ships. They're coming in, and she's kind of a little bit worried. And Luke says that's a neighboring tribe from another island. Every year or whatever, or once every 3 months or something, they come here and they pillage the fort and they pillage the town and they do whatever. And she's like, well, two force users, let's go stop them. Let's go. And he goes, well, wait a second. If you do this, then they're just going to come back with stronger numbers. You're just going to make them want to revisit this and come back in a stronger force. And it's going to cause more. And are you going to be here then? Are you going to be here 2 months from now to stop it? I mean, and he tells her the Jedi would have taught you to not intervene unless you could keep peace. So is this something he thinks killing Ben, as hard as it would be for him to kill his own blood, in the Jedi way, would that be keeping peace, stopping him from becoming evil, a path that Luke saw him going down? It's kind of a new way to look at Luke that we never ever thought we'd have to after Return of the Jedi.
I took it as kind of what Isaac was saying, where he never, at least in the original trilogy, he never officially finished his training. He just shows up in Return of the Jedi and says, I am a Jedi. Yeah. But it's not because he went back and trained with Yoda, because Yoda died. So you're like, well, okay.
And Yoda told him in Dagobah, no, you're not a Jedi yet.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, when did when did that happen? So I took it as
I'm sorry, Josh, which is a strange thing, because he tells Luke, oh, so I am a Jedi. And Yoda goes, no, no,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But he also tells Luke, only a trained Jedi with the Force as his ally can defeat Vader and his Emperor.
Yeah.
So which is it? Do you have to defeat them to become a Jedi?
Well,
you have to
but-
become a Jedi to defeat them?
You could look at it as Vader, who was a trained Jedi, actually defeated the Emperor.
Right.
So that's how I always look at that too.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Luke didn't like Isaac said, technically, no. Luke did not win.
Yeah.
Luke failed.
Well,
As far as what the
he
Jedi
succeeded in turning his dad back
yeah,
to
he in
light,
what
so-
he was
Luke-
most concerned with.
Luke completed his goal.
Right.
Not what the Jedi, not what Yoda was saying was going to happen. Yoda didn't think he could turn. Ben didn't think he could turn.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
thought
but
you have
he
to
did,
beat
though.
them.
Yeah.
You have to beat them.
But in The Last Jedi, that moment with him almost killing Kylo, I took it as like he's sort of in over his head. He's not like he wasn't necessarily prepared to be the one to like rejuvenate the Jedi Order and train new Jedi, but now he's in this position. He has to take up this mantle because there's nobody else. He's got these, fresh like recruits in, very young kids, impressionable kids, and he's noticing some very disturbing things in Kylo. And because he's Force sensitive, can probably see like some of the potential, and is terrified that Kylo's going to end up being another Vader, and knows all the pain and suffering that brings. And so like he's having again like a moment where his faith is faltering and thinking, maybe the best thing is just to end this now and try and explain it away later or like deal with the consequences later, but at least all that can be curbed in the moment.
Now, do any of you think at all that Luke might not have told her the entire story? Because Kylo, I mean, I know you're dealing with Kylo's the bad guy, Luke's the good guy, right? Now, but we also had a lot of other preconceived notions about Luke before we saw this movie and realized, well, he's way different. So Kylo says that he actually went through with it, and Kylo defended himself. That's the only reason he didn't die. Luke's story is that he was going to and then resisted, and then Kylo pulled it down.
No, I think we got the true story on the third version, and I got two things here. One, I want to go back to, because I like to defend Luke. I want to go back to the original trilogy. When they said that you need to kill Vader. Now, in essence, he did kill Vader.
That's
Luke
true.
did, because once Vader turned back, Vader's dead. He's Anakin now. So in essence, he kind of did defeat Vader. Number one. Number two is
Wait a second. If Vader killed, if all you have to do is turn means you kill the other one, Anakin was never really killed because he came back.
You know what
So
I'm
was Vader really killed? Come on.
Yes. No, he
Come
was,
on.
and then he proved himself with his actions. He redeemed himself with destroying.
It's just,
The other thing is too, didn't because we're talking about Luke seeing this evil and Kylo, and didn't Han and Leia send Kylo to Luke because they saw some things going on or worried about him because Snoke had already from what I picked up, Snoke had already tried to weasel in there, and that's why they sent him to Luke.
Yeah, Leia basically says, I should have never let him go. I think is that what she says to Han?
Yeah, that she never should have sent him or whatever.
Yeah.
That's when she lost Han, when she lost Ben too.
But they sent him
Snoke
because they had already seen.
Snoke had already sensed his power, and had tried to manipulate that because of the Vader ties. And they thought Luke would be the one that would be able to not straighten him out as if he were like a troubled child yet, but they thought Luke would have the strength as a Jedi to help him get through those. And that's when Han was like, what could I do? Luke's a Jedi. If he can't save him, how could I? And Leia's like, well, you're his father. So Ben had already gotten some, dark side whispers in his ear, obviously, at that point, before he even went there.
And that's a whole nother section is where it's spilling over because it's intricately woven into the story, and that's Snoke. So me personally, I hated seeing Snoke get. I'm not necessarily upset with Snoke getting killed, Although I should say I am a little upset with Snoke being killed. But I would have been better if we had have gotten more backstory. To Josh's comment about, we didn't get any story about the Emperor. Yeah, but we also didn't have any prequels. We didn't have 6 movies of context before Snoke. And then we're supposed to believe that Snoke has been around since Phantom Menace. He's been watching this whole thing, and we don't get any of that at all. Now, that's not to say we can't get some of it in 9. We can't hear about from Luke's ghost, Force ghost, what happened. Or, I don't think there'll be a lot of flashbacks, but we can at least maybe get some more context. But I thought, okay, in the original trilogy, Vader in episode 4, he's the big baddie. We don't know who this guy is. Ominous dude in this black suit. Man, what a villain, right? Okay, second one comes along. Well, wait a second. He's kneeling. He's reporting to somebody. Like, who is this guy, right? Don't know anything about him. Third one comes around. We see him in the flesh. He lands on the Death Star. He starts talking. Mysteriously hooded guy, disfigured face, incredible, iconic voice of a villain. And you see a lot of him in Return of the Jedi. And from the throne room on, face-to-face interaction, a lot of stuff. Still don't know any of his backstory, right? Just know that he's the master and he wants to replace Vader with Luke, and he's got plans. And you start realizing, even before you know the rule of 2, and we find out from the prequels, you start realizing, well, wait a second, this guy is evil. He's getting ready just to throw Vader to the side, and he wants the young, fresh blood. But then you get the prequels, and you know what's going to happen. The prequels are boring because it's about politics, but also it's because you're telling a story that we already know what happens. We already know the end game. We just don't know the filler, what happens in between. So you get all of this backstory of how Palpatine injects himself into the Senate politically, starts to manipulate. He's playing both sides. So I started watching The Phantom Menace last night just because a little bit, because I bought this new box set. And I thought it was so interesting that you see the first time you see Palpatine is in a projection talking to the Trade Federation, and he's got his face, his thing on. He's not disfigured yet, but you don't see hardly any of his face, and he's talking in his iconic voice. Right, the very next thing you see is Senator or not. I don't think he's a senator yet. Maybe he is Senator Palpatine of Naboo. He's in a projection, but he's without the cloak, and he's talking normally. I thought that was a cool contrast that I never noticed. Immediately, right off the bat, you see him playing both sides. Oh, well, they should have. Why didn't the negotiations? They should have been there. And the whole time he's saying, kill them, get rid of them, blah, 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 blah. So that's really cool. But you have all of that. And I know you didn't have that before, but you didn't. I feel like there's a difference between Snoke now because you've established that he has, and now this wasn't established in the movie, but it was established in the canon of I think the novelization or one of the books, something, Chad. But anyways, he was around long enough to see the rise and fall of the Empire. So at least episode 3 on. I think the rise in Empire.
They call him ancient. They refer to him in the novels. They don't ever call him by name, but they refer to an ancient force, ancient being out in the unknown regions that Palpatine has been the entire time he's been building this empire. Wasn't just to rule the galaxy, but he wanted to expand his knowledge of the Force, and he was reaching out to the unknown regions, to this dark, ancient presence that was out there calling to him. So for me, and if you listen to Star Wars Rant podcast, you know that I've read all the books, all the canon stuff since Disney's taken over, and they set Snoke up to be huge, like to be this Force being that maybe is tapped into Force that we just have, that even Palpatine was unaware of. Sith. Yeah, he's been around forever. And the what he could be and what he could bring to the movies, and the knowledge that he could have given Kylo, and how he could have taken him from Luke, and that Luke is maybe afraid of him. That's why he ran. And then just to cut him in half and have his tongue hang out was one of my
pet peeves is, okay, kill him, but they made fun of him too. They made it a joke.
Yeah.
And now another thing is that how many people, I shouldn't say how many people, but it's been proven that being cut in half does not mean
especially if you're cut with a cauterizing laser sword that stops the bleeding.
Yeah, I mean, when we see Phantom Menace, we think, okay, Darth Maul died, but then Disney resurrected him.
Yeah.
Now even Lucas, Anakin was dismembered even worse, and was lit on fire. And now with the help of machines and everything, he still lived. So then you have Snoke, who it's not been confirmed, but it's been really implied that he is somehow prolonging his life to be that old, to look the way he does. He knows something that the rest of us don't. And for him to be so wise and so be able to see so far and do all this and all that stuff, I understand that having Kylo kills him makes Kylo all of a sudden seem like way more, but it seems like a real lazy way to do it to me.
So here's some of my problem is that, to me, like the Snoke is the sinister one. He's conniving. He has plans, and Kylo he's very reactionary, right? Things happen and he reacts. He does not plan ahead. He's not sinister. He doesn't come off as evil, right? He comes off, like you guys had said earlier, as the bratty, spoiled, rebellious kid. And I don't think he's strong enough to carry the movie as the main villain.
Well, the one thing that Kylo has going for him that is sinister and or a person like Snoke or the Emperor didn't have is that Kylo, when we learn about the dark side of the Force, we learn that it's emotional. We learn that it's you get more powerful the more you give into your anger, the more you give into your feelings. Anakin, as much as we made fun of the acting and as much as whiny brat, Anakin was very, very emotional. He let his heart guide him in a bad way. He didn't control his emotions, his feelings, and it was bad for him. The dark side consumed him. Here you have Kylo, who, like you're saying, Brian, he doesn't think things out. He goes with what he's feeling at that moment. He lets his anger and his hate consume him, and is just hell bent off the handle, flying off the handle rage. That end, when he realizes that Luke, duped him at the end, and turns around, and that was a very believable, very well acted. The look on his face, the scream when he realizes they slipped out of my grasp. I wasn't paying attention. It's almost like he knows I screwed up. I hate everyone. I want to just kill everyone. Like that's the dark side just ripping through him. Whereas Snoke and Palpatine, very, very, very methodical, very, very foresight. This is the plan. This is the detail. I'm going to do this. I'm going to seduce this person. I'm going to move them here. I'm going to use them to get this person. I'm going to do this and blah, 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 blah. Now, we don't know that as much about Snoke, but it seems like he's that kind of a character, and he's been doing it longer than Sidious, longer than Palpatine, who was who was proven in all those movies to be a mastermind. That's one of the biggest coups or political sways of opinion and everything, manipulation to put himself in power that we've seen. And that was great storytelling, even though it wasn't delivered great, the prequels, whatever. The story is cool. I love the story of Star Wars. I love the building of the Empire and Palpatine. That story, I love that. And to see that there's a possibility of some grander scheme, even especially when I thought that Snoke could have possibly have been Plagueis, who's Plagueis, it was his plan in the first place to put Palpatine in that spot. Palpatine was his pawn to be the inside man to get him what he wanted. And Palpatine, murdered him, betrayed him, and took that plan for himself and then get his own apprentice. So I really wanted to see that. When I saw what was happening and I saw the lightsaber turning, and I'm thinking, oh, come on. I was conflicted because at one point I'm thinking that this is cool. I mean, this is cool that Kylo's doing this. I can't deny that. This is cool. If Kylo kills him, that's like, screw you, old man. You don't control me. You don't know me. It's the Kylo that you saw in the beginning of the movie where he almost stood up to defy him, and Snoke just basically snaps his finger and a lightning threw him to the ground. Like a dad backhanding his son, Yeah. And this is Kylo saying, no, I'm listening to you right now. You're saying, oh, I just used Kylo. I planted all this stuff. I made the connection between you two. He's doing that, blah, blah, blah. I can see everything. I'm the one you can't beat me, blah, blah, blah. And it's basically Kylo's going, it's like a rebellious teenager when you're telling them, no, you're not in control. I'm in control. This is what you're going to do. You're not going to do this. You're grounded from this. I'm taking this away. And Kylo's rage, you can see it building in him. And he's like, no, I'm not. You don't control me. I'm not going the way you want. I'm going to do what I want. And so that to me is really cool. But at the same time, I lose something I really, really wanted to see. I really wanted to see what Snoke was, who Snoke was. I wanted him to matter. And the fact that it was almost like, ha, I gotcha. The fact that Rian Johnson told us before the movie even came out, your Snoke theory is wrong. And none of us suspected, because there is no Snoke theory. There is no Snoke story. Ha, surprise. He doesn't mean anything. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't.
See, that's to me, though, that's why I liked, that's one of my favorite moments in the movie. That whole scene, but specifically where everything in that moment completely changed. And the reason I like that so much is because there was so much gravity behind, who is this person? How powerful is he? Where'd he come from? What are his plans? And then just to see that all snuffed out because Kylo is finally like, nah, I'm going to do my own thing. And it did seem like he made that decision. He wasn't planning on this. He made that decision very much in that moment, and then gave that, impassioned speech saying, let the past die, kill it if you have to. It seemed like he had sort of just arrived at that in that moment, but I thought that's what gave it that much gravity and meaning, that Snoke is obviously very powerful. He obviously has been doing this for a very long time. And then just to see it snuffed out because Kylo is like, nah, I'm going to do my own thing. And now Kylo has zero guiding force, zero moral compass, it would seem. To me, that's what gave that moment so much power, because now whatever was going on with Snoke is not even part of the equation anymore. All of the dynamics just changed.
And Kylo even stood over him at the end. What did I just do?
Yeah.
Did this just happen? Did I just do this? He wasn't, she tried talking to him at first and he didn't even recognize her being there.
Yeah.
And he had to snap out of it. I mean, it was crazy.
Josh, I hate to say this, but I think ultimately the joke will be on you and Rian Johnson when did prequels come out and give a whole backstory to Snoke and where he came from.
So the pre-sequels, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's going to be like
Rian Johnson's new trilogy is a prequel to George Lucas's prequels.
Right.
Oh, no.
About Snoke. And the entire thing is CGI.
Pre-prequels.
There's no live action.
And what's the guy that played Anakin?
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, he's coming back, but as a different character.
I think Brian one time called him Christian Haydenson.
Yeah. Hey, though there is a new animated series coming out called The Resistance, and obviously it follows the X-Wing fighters. It's a new character, but that they're going to show. You could get some Snoke backstory in that, if it's because it's in that Resistance time frame.
Well,
so.
Did you see that John? What do you call his name? The guy directed Iron Man 1. John
Favreau?
John
Favreau.
Favreau.
Yeah. He's going to be directing the live action television series, and he's kind of leaked, not leaked, but he gave an interview saying that it's going to take place between Return of the Jedi
Yeah.
and these movies.
So you could, so you could. I think that's how you're gonna get it. I'm sure in episode 9 they're gonna reference him. I don't think you're gonna see Snoke somehow come back. It'd be it wouldn't work. But I think somehow they'll reference him and explain some type of backstory.
I hope that Star Wars series is a Netflix series and not a
It'll be the
television.
Disney.
It's going to be the Disney thing, yeah.
Or at least that, because
they're going to have their own Netflix style streaming service. So right after this, though, regardless of what you think about it, we get one of the true to form from after the first, the first movie, The Force Awakens. One of the greatest lightsaber fights that we have in the saga, which isn't really lightsaber on lightsaber at all. It's lightsaber on weird Praetorian Guard, whatever weapons they have, which is cool. You see Kylo and, or whether you want to call him Ben at that point, I don't know. But you see Kylo and Rey fight these guards together, and it is cool. They are in sync. They are basically two sides of the same Force coin, right? Which is a lot of people have talked about. Like that's they, like Snoke said, the darkness rises and the light to meet it. These are two similar in age people, similar, like Luke said, raw strength, right? Not refined, just people that are so strong in the Force without even really their training happening. And since then, I guess I want to talk about just a little bit, because this does play into it, and I've kind of jumped over it already. Rey's training is ridiculously quick. Like what, in like a day and a half or something. Luke was fast. Luke was too old to start the training in Empire Strikes Back, and spent we're led to believe at least a few days on Dagobah, and then went back to, I don't know what he did. I mean, what we saw, he just talked with him, but went back to finish his training. That was something he always planned on doing. I will return to finish my training, I promise. After I go to save my friends, I'm going to come back. So in the books or in the novelization, one of the two, they describe Rey as in these, oddly enough, in the things that Snoke set up, these connections that we are now, one of the new Force things that we didn't have before, these connections where they basically can see each other and their surroundings kind of drop out and you see the other person. It's like you're having a face-to-face, right? It even showed one scene when she was standing on the rock, the cliff face by the ocean. Kylo felt the surf. He had water on his hand. It's like I mean, don't ask me how it works. That's just what happened. So in this, right, whatever this was, and is it the novelization, Chad, that said this, that she gleaned some of his? It's like he opened the door to her Force powers the more they convened through this Force connection that they had.
when they had the moment where they touched, they each saw a version or their viewpoint of each other's future.
Right, but there was a separate thing that referenced her learning. Her knowledge of the Force grew exponentially because of this connection. It's like she gleaned off of Kylo.
Okay.
I don't know what this. It was it was either the novelization or some type of or maybe it was the Visual Dictionary. I don't remember, but it definitely is canon, and it was stated. You can Google it, you can find it somewhere. That's what I think Ryan Johnson even mentioned it too. That's a lot of the reason why people say, well, she didn't have any training and she's going and doing this. She beat Luke in hand-to-hand combat basically almost, which was, strange. But you have this happen between them. The fight is incredible. At the very end, there's the exchange between them where, again, he looks down at Snoke. She snaps him out of it. They're talking. She's like, come on, we got to go save him. We can still help him. And he's just like, no, this is Josh's favorite moment in the movie. Just let it all die. the Sith, the
Kill
Jedi, all of it. Kill it if you have to. Let the past die. Forget it. And she's like, no, Ben, don't do this. We still have. He's like, you're still holding on. Let go. It's almost like he snaps again right there.
Yeah.
He's like, you're not getting it. Like he wanted to force it into her head. You don't see it. Forget about this crap. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it was almost like she was getting the speech from Luke at the beginning, and now Kylo on the other side, like towards the middle of the movie, she's almost getting the same speech where they're both sort of saying like, just get out of it. Like, don't get wrapped up in any of this. Like you don't need to get involved, or like for different reasons. But it was almost, to me in that moment, it was almost the same speech Luke had given her, but from the other side of things. Because Kylo was saying like, we can just do our own thing now. And at the beginning, Luke was kind of saying like, you don't want to get into this in the first place. And Luke was just sort of content to let the Jedi Order just die off. But I thought I thought it was interesting. They were both kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah. So what is his game? Like, what does he want to start new? What does he even know yet? I'm
kind of hoping. So this is me speculating, which I try not to do, but I'm kind of hoping this is where maybe we get an introduction to the gray Jedi. And maybe that's, whether he is or not, maybe that's what he considers himself, like going into episode 9, where he's like, I am neither, and I'll do my own thing. And I would, like, in that moment, I was really hoping that Rey would take him up on his offer. Like I think a few of us probably were, but I still think there's a chance that happens in episode 9 to some extent.
I think some of it could be just, let's end the manipulation. Kylo's been manipulated. Luke, in a sense, was manipulated by Obi-Wan, lied to. So like just this idea of, we've been manipulated. Let's just end this and let's just do our own thing. I think that's another way to kind of look at it too. Because they've both been kind of burned by the system in a sense.
Yeah.
So, but
it's also in this moment that we get a reveal of something we've been itching to know since the first movie, or since The Force Awakens. Who are Rey's parents? We've theorized, we've speculated. There's been all kinds of theories. Great theories too. A lot of different theories that all really were intriguing, and that I would have liked to explore several of them. I had some of my own. I thought her accent was going to play a part in who she was related to. All kinds of different things. Kylo and again, it's Kylo. This is someone who is, out of control on the dark side, and you would think, was going to say whatever he wants to say or whatever he needs to say. But a lot of times, when you're emotional, sometimes the truth just flies out. That's just what happens. So he very well could be telling the truth. Tells her, basically, say it. And she says they're nobodies. He's like, they're nobodies. They're filthy junk traders. They sold you for drinking money. And he even said that, I think, in the beginning of the movie to her. He said your parents gave you up, or your parents sold you away. And one of the connections, and she said no. She like rejected it. But so here he is now, basically getting her to admit what she fears to be the truth. Their parents are nobodies. There's a lot of people on both sides of this fence. My personal opinions, I'm fine with them being nobody. It's almost like give and take. You got to give me something if I'm gonna take this. You got to give me something else. That's not give and take. That's just giving me what I don't know. But anyways, it would work out for me if some other things felt. I just felt like it was one thing after another. I just got hit with Snoke doesn't matter. Ha ha ha. I just crumpled up your theory and threw it in the trash and set it on fire. Also, guess what? Yeah, just nobody. Don't worry about who she was. Doesn't matter. She's nobody.
I can accept it. The problem was the setup from Force Awakens to where, the lightsaber calls and it seems like there's a history there. The way Maz kind of talks to her a little bit. When Maz tells, asks Han, who is this girl? And then they cut away and you don't find out to imply that Han knows who she is. The way Han looks at her, there's a lot of setup that she's somebody. So that
Daisy Ridley even said in an interview, I thought it was pretty obvious who her parents were.
And then you even said it earlier, Dave, the way Kylo reacted, when he found out there was a girl, he knew who this girl was, and
then you've got stuff that's come out since in the backlash of The Last Jedi. You've got Simon Pegg, who has worked with JJ on Star Trek and on Star Wars as what's the guy's name that
Unkar Plot.
Yeah, the guy that basically we've learned was Rey was left in his care, even though he basically just sent her on her way and he made sure to give her a job basically so she could eat and whatever. Simon Pegg said, yeah, JJ had this idea of some type of a relevant lineage. There was an idea of her parents being somewhat relevant, or I don't know if the words were somewhat relevant, but the idea that her parents were people that we were going to find out who they were and they were going to hold some value to the story was a plot device. So that movie was definitely written with that in there. It's very clear. There's even if the thing between Rey and Kylo, even if we took that out, there's several other things that point to her parents being somebody.
So then is Kylo just straight up lying, and then that's a redeeming quality of Episode 9?
I think that's up to JJ.
What if it was planned that way? What if it was planned to mislead and misdirect the audience?
There is no plan. There is no plan.
Well, that's just the thing. It is different because say what you want, and I'll probably be labeled at some point as a George Lucas apologist or whatever. I don't care. But even though Lucas didn't write all of the original trilogy, he did oversee it all. There was a guiding hand.
He put his stamp on it.
There was a guiding hand, and I think you got to lend some credibility to the guy for putting guys like Kasdan in charge of movies like Empire Strikes Back and these other people that he brought in. I mean, there's stories even about A New Hope where he realized I need some help on this. I need some help to shape this the way I'm not. He is a self proclaimed. He says about himself that he's not a good writer. He just has this idea and he wanted to present it to people. But there was always this guiding hand over Star Wars. And I don't think that Kathleen Kennedy at all is in any way similar to what George Lucas is. I mean, she kind of is the person that oversees it, but she's not guiding. She's basically let these guys do what they want. And there's an idea. We know that because other directors, Trevorrow or whatever his name was, were let go because they weren't lining up, eye to eye with what Disney wanted to do. But clearly there's some type of disconnect. There's so much freedom to where JJ has this idea and Ryan has this idea. And you would think so many of those little cogs off those ideas have to go together other than, it's the same characters, So I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with her and I've already accepted her not having important parents. If they surprise us with, guess what? Kyle was lying. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, because he's the bad guy. So whatever. If they're not important, that doesn't matter to me now because I really don't know what's going to happen.
I keep going back to so from the very beginning, I mean, I said this early on, but I was hoping that her parents wouldn't be anybody. I hate the idea of them recycling that same idea once again. I don't want her parents to be anybody. I want the Force to be adopting new people, and I want Rey to just be a nobody that is just sort of finding her way. But I keep thinking even if it is revealed that her parents were whomever they would make her parents, that like we would know, and it would be like this, you know, like, oh, they were her parents. Like, what would that, in the grand scheme of things, like how would that progress the plot? Like, what would that even do for the story other than, oh, we finally have an answer to this question? To me, it doesn't seem super relevant at this point. Like, it doesn't seem like it would really matter that much in the grand scheme of things anyway, even if they were people we would recognize.
I feel like there would have to be other things that happen to make that relevant. You can't, the way that the movie played out at that point, it makes sense for her to not have any relevant lineage, because you've started chopping off all the limbs.
Well, yeah, they wrote this, The Last Jedi, to the point of with that in mind, of her not having a lineage. So you can't progress that story. And I have always said, like, it is too hard to explain, you know, because people are like, oh, it's Obi-Wan or it's the Emperor. Like, if you have to sit there and try to explain that in a movie, that's going to be very difficult because of the ages of people and things like that. So some of that was difficult. My problem
Obi-Wan was suspended in carbonite for like 10 years. Why his ages don't last?
They seem like they knew who she was, though. Like, Han knew who she was, and I'm okay with her not having certain parents, but like there has to be a reason why she was chosen to have this much power with the Force. Like, they have to give us that reason. And it seemed like Han knew that reason.
In my opinion, and this is tying into I'm kind of jumping over my notes here, but this was Luke's movie, but ultimately this is a Skywalker saga. These 9 movies, it's been said, this is the Skywalker saga. These 3 movies that we're doing right now, the second movie we just finished of these last 3, are supposed to tie up this story. This is supposed to be an end to the Skywalker saga. Yes, Star Wars is not only about the Skywalkers. Star Wars is about the Force. The Skywalker family they don't hold a monopoly over the Force, but this saga is about them. So this is closing this story of this family up. So to me, when I think of it that way, I think, well, Rey is somebody that the Force chose, much like, you know, I'm jumping all over the place, but much like Anakin was the chosen one, right? I always believe Anakin was the chosen one. Anakin was the one that the Force chose to bring balance, right? Well, then along the line, Anakin messes up. Anakin goes too much. He goes too dark side, right? Then the Force brings Luke in to rectify the situation, basically. It's like it's adapting. The living Force is changing the plan to keep it on the same path, but it's bringing in different players, right? So then Anakin goes back to, at the very end after all this, he does what he does, but that doesn't finish it all. Somewhere between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, we have something else that didn't complete what the Force originally started with Anakin with. So now you've got Luke, who's not doing anything anymore with the Force. And I'm thinking, okay, so the Force has now brought Rey, and she's coming to rectify the situation that Luke left open-ended, you know, with whatever happened. And so now she's going to talk to Luke. She's going to deal with Luke, and the Force is righting that ship again to bring Luke back into this story, and Luke is going to end this, right? So then that's obviously not it, because we're going to talk in a second about what happened to Luke at the end.
Can't she still be like? So I didn't.
She doesn't have to be anybody special for that to happen.
No, I know. I was going to say, can't she?
That obviously aren't happening.
For it to, like, if it is indeed like a Skywalker saga, she can still be Luke's legacy, because, like, you know, he passed on his knowledge to her, like, in a limited amount of time, and like sort of helped like steer her in the right direction. So she can still be his legacy.
Yeah, the problem I have is that something has to happen for this to be a ending the Skywalker saga. Unless it's ending on a bad note, they've put themselves in a situation to where they either have to redeem Kylo, which I don't see happening, and I don't want to have happen. Like, my personal, but it doesn't matter what I want. But my opinion is, I mean, we've had a redemption, a Skywalker redemption already in Anakin. So let's show what happens when that doesn't happen. But you have to have something that makes it happy ending or resolution. I don't know if they're going to I mean, they've got this whole storyline of Kylo worshiping Vader's
Yeah, that's gone.
legacy, right?
They lost all that though.
They didn't even talk about that, other than Snoke saying, "Oh, you could have been another Vader." The first time he said that, I'm like, "All right, here we go, playing into this Vader thing, right?" But then they quickly glazed over that. He mentions that, and then it's done. Basically saying you're never going to be a Vader. You're never going to be him. So I don't know if they're going to bring that back in. I don't know if you're ever going to see Kylo doing that again or whatever. But I just don't know exactly what's going to happen. But before we get, I want to just right the ship just a little bit and jump off of this topic because we're very long-winded on this specific topic and for good reason. But in between this, backtracking just a second, you've got that final battle where Holdor is sending out the ships. Am I saying her name right? I keep feeling like I'm going to Game of Thrones.
Hodor.
Hodor. Yeah. So you've had the mutiny happen with Poe. You've got a lot of people. I'm not even going to get into the whole, Poe's undermined by a woman. They just had to insert this into the blah, blah. I don't care about that. But you've got Hodor who Holdo.
Holdo.
You've got Holdo who seemingly created an unnecessary problem by not explaining to Poe what was going on. I guess she was trying to teach him a lesson of just follow orders like you're supposed to. But regardless of that, we could touch on that if you guys want to. But it results in the ships taking off to go to Crate, where there's an old rebel base or whatever. And when Poe starts to realize what's happening after Leia wakes up, yada, 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 she turns the ship and sacrifice play blows it into the it's not the Dreadnought anymore. It's just their other big ship.
That's Snoke's ship.
Ship. The Supremacy, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So she just hyperdrives it straight through, which science aside and aside from the fact that why haven't they always just been doing this stuff and all these other movies? It was great filmmaking.
Yeah.
It was a great shot. The visuals and everything, the sound, it was awesome.
The silence. Yeah.
What happened just before when the First Order guys realized what was about to happen, and Hux screaming no, shoot that or whatever. And then she just goes through. What a great scene. Awesome, right?
That was a great moment.
They go down. They go down to the planet, and they're about to start having this Crate scene, which brings us back to Rey's the lightsaber fight and her parentage and everything, and them deciding to part ways. They fought over the lightsabers. It ends with Poe or Kylo getting knocked out by the blast somehow, and Rey being fine. A lot of people say, why didn't Kylo just use his other hand and use the Force to get his lightsaber and just stop her or something? So what do you guys think about that? I mean, we pretty much like that scene, right?
Yeah.
The ship flying into that, it's awesome.
Yeah.
They fly down to Crate. We get kind of a Hoth recreation scene. You got the walkers down there again, a little bit more updated. The planet is really cool. The visuals of the white and the red I thought was great. You got trench warfare again, which is awesome. Them using the old stuff, which is kind of a throwback to the original trilogies, was cool.
Cool.
The dirt and the grime, stuff that doesn't work. The scene where Poe's like, all right, everybody, just go. What the heck? Like his foot flies through the thing while he's talking. I thought that was cool. They're dropping in this big giant ramming weapon.
Cannon.
Right?
Yeah.
It's going to fire this blast. It's got to heat up. It's got to charge up like they always do. And it's going to blast a hole in this gigantic bunker door, right? They are cemented in all around. They got this giant door, all this stuff in there. They're sitting in there. So they all get in these old little, whatever they're called. I always forget what they're called. They're flying through there. The dragon visual is awesome. So you've got Finn, who his character arc has come full circle, right? Force Awakens, he's a stormtrooper. He's watching. He's just basically fresh off the line, right? He's been trained and everything. He's going out. They order him to kill people, innocent people, people that can't fire back. He doesn't want to do it. It's noticed by Kylo. What's her name says something, which I guess we skipped over her too. The fact that he basically beat her again, and her importance has kind of been undermined again.
Yep.
There's so many other things, but he has now decided he was going to run from the First Order, right? You can't beat the First Order. I've seen what they do. You cannot win. You cannot do it. We have to run. I'm bailing. So then Rey, all that stuff happens. As we know, he comes back to save her. He's at the end of the movie holding a lightsaber facing off against Kylo Ren, which is just crazy, right? So he wakes up, has to go find her. And at this point, when they are in that base, he is like, we gotta buy time. We gotta fight them. We gotta stop them. And basically, it's if he would have been given the opportunity, would have led the charge right down the throat of the enemy, right? I mean, this is like one of those. This is almost a suicide mission, and for Finn, it was going to be. So he's in there. That thing is lighting up. Poe meets his little arc in this movie where he realizes, oh, no reason to go in and get ourselves killed. Pull away, abandon. We're losing too many people. We got to fall back. Finn's like, no, I can do it. I can stop it. He takes off his helmet. Rose is telling him, no, don't do it. Takes off his helmet, drops the little tail thing or whatever, and decides he's going in. He's going to do the sacrificial play. He's going to, if all he does is blow this thing up, that's what he's going to do. He's decided in his heart. I'm sitting in the theater. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm like, Finn is freaking awesome. Like, this is awesome. I did not want him to die, but at that moment, I was like, if he dies, like, what a weighty decision. I would have been satisfied. I would have been fine with that. And then at the last minute, he closes his eyes. He's about to go out. At the last minute, Rose comes flying in from the side, slams into him, knocks them out, right? Then they have this little romantic exchange when these giant AT-AT walkers are just standing around there to obliterate them all. Nobody shoots them. Nobody looks at them. They're just sitting here having a conversation while the resistance or the First Order blows open this door. And then she, says her little line, we didn't, what'd she say? I forgot because I just don't really care for that scene. So, something about we save the people we love. We don't
win by fighting those that we hate. We win by saving those that we love.
And then she gives him a little kiss and passes out. And then somehow, because the door blows open, right?
Yeah.
The whole goal is to blow that door open, march in, destroy them all, right? Somehow, they get from the feet of the AT-AT walkers back into the base. He's dragging her on a big piece of the ship metal.
Yep.
Somehow gets all the way back to the base with no bad guys getting in behind him.
No,
they haven't even moved. Enough. They haven't moved from the spot they were in.
Yeah.
When that happened.
Nope.
What do you guys think about that scene?
It's what do you like? Self-explanatory here. I mean, just by your tone, it's a little bit of a stretch.
Am I allowed to say here that I really wish they would have just let Finn die?
No, I agree. I think
that's what I was getting at.
Well, not because I like Finn, but because I don't like Finn.
Oh, okay.
I hate Finn's character.
I agree with Dave, except for I hate him.
Oh my gosh.
All Finn. Okay, so I'm just gonna say this here. I was gonna say this earlier, and Finn has become my least favorite character in these movies, like to the point where I actively dislike him. I didn't really like him in The Force Awakens, and then The Last Jedi. I was like, just let him die. He's not. He doesn't do anything. He's like in the Force Awakens. In the Force Awakens, all he was good at was defecting, and then he was like he just happened to be a stormtrooper, so he like knew where to get the plans or whatever. Like he was a janitor, so he knew the layout. He knew what the blueprints were. Like woohoo, thanks Finn. And then
fought Kylo Ren with a lightsaber.
Yeah, which doesn't make any
Also
freaking
told Rey to
sense.
stay low on Jakku to confuse
No,
their tracking or whatever.
Kylo has like that. I hated that scene too. Like Finn held his own against Kylo. Are you freaking kidding me? But then like in this movie, he's this whiny baby the whole time. He's like, I gotta go find Rey, and like knows what Rey's capable of. Like, let Rey take care of herself. She's fine. Like, do your part where you're at. And he goes off on this stupid secret mission that doesn't do anything anyway, gives all the plans over to this DJ guy. And then like the whole movie, he seems so useless. And like, I don't know. He became so unlikable for me.
I feel like they don't know what to do with him. And I didn't really care for him in The Force Awakens. And I did think when he was on The Last Jedi, I thought for sure he was going to die when he was charging for that cannon. And I thought to myself, like, wow, I would actually feel kind of bad that I didn't like him if he actually does this. You know what I mean? Because it's a totally like redeeming thing for him to do.
Yeah.
But here's my other problem with that scene too, is like, so like when Rose saves him, like whatever, okay. But there's like absolutely no chemistry between those two, Finn and Rose. It's like it makes zero sense, and I don't know where they're going with that. Like to me, the Finn and Rey thing, there's a little more chemistry there, but like it's just Rose and Finn. Like it doesn't jive. It doesn't make sense. So I don't get that part.
Well, Isaac, what do you think? You have any thoughts on that?
It doesn't make sense. I'm a big fan of, I guess, like the tragedy of losing a staple character like that, because it kind of makes them a little more memorable. And then again, it's just like don't toy with us and make us think somebody's dead or gonna die, and then at the last moment, just kidding, they're not. But I mean, I think there's some importance to Finn. Finn doesn't really hold his own against Kylo Ren. He gets tossed around like a rag doll. Also, Kylo Ren got shot by Chewbacca.
There's no reason even with that shot, there is no way Finn should have been alive for 2 seconds standing up against Kylo Ren. There's no way.
You forget
he was a janitor.
You forget Kylo Ren.
He had training, military training.
He was a janitor.
Kylo Ren he can't control himself when he gets like emotionally, I'm angry. I'm a whirlwind or whatever. It's
He's
just
not
like
focused.
Exactly.
Which to me is all the more reason he should have just eviscerated him in pure rage.
Now hold on. Now Finn took on Kylo Ren and he beat Phasma.
Which also doesn't make sense to me.
So give him a break. So think about this: how does Poe escape without Finn? How does Rey get away from
That's what I'm saying. He's good at defecting.
Poe was supposed to die. Poe was supposed to die originally. You would have thought it would be the other way around almost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just remember sitting in the theater thinking, what a great send off. Like this would be good. This would have been great. But it doesn't happen. Again, the strange I don't know how he got from the literally the feet of these things all the way back to the base, and no soldiers followed him in. Movies. At this point, they blew the door open, right? So what is their plan? They were going to march the AT&T cell service. Yeah, they're going to march these walkers all the way up to the door and then get out. And I mean, they have the ship that Kylo takes a ship down to it's hovering there the whole time and flies down and lands. They couldn't have sent any soldiers in at all. I don't understand. Anyways, but that's not the most important thing that happens here. This is where you get the big Luke send-off. The Skywalker that is started it all is going to come down here and talk. We're thinking, okay, you see Luke watch the Millennium Falcon, because we completely skipped over this part. You watch him, you see Rey and Chewbacca take off. He decides, like he's mad. He gets this look of determination on his face. You see him walking. He lights the little weird torch thing, and he's gonna go burn down the Force tree, right, with all the Jedi techs inside. And he gets there. He starts to walk in, and he can't do it. And all of a sudden, as he walk by, us in the seats see Yoda, Force Ghost Yoda, standing there watching him. Luke hasn't seen him yet. All of a sudden, we learn a new thing about the Force, that Force Ghosts can actually physically and tangibly touch the world that they're in before. So he points his finger to the sky, lightning strikes the tree, lights it on fire. Luke goes to run in to save the Jedi techs that he was just ready to burn up, and it explodes and he gets thrown back. And all of a sudden you hear Yoda laughing at him. And they have their little conversation, which is cool to see Luke and Yoda again together. That was a really cool scene. And you get to see, this is a little bit of saving grace, in my opinion, of old man Luke sitting here having a conversation with Yoda, where Yoda's basically telling him, you're the same Luke from Empire Strikes Back. You're the same kid who's always looking into the future, never looking right what's right in front of you. And he takes his little ghost cane and he hits Luke on the head to where you audibly hear the physical connection. So again, they're going out of their way to show you that these ghosts can tangibly touch the world, which I am convinced something's got to happen with this. I mean, are we going to see, is it possible to see a Force Ghost Luke with a lightsaber that actually can block another lightsaber? Because what we saw on Crate was a Force projection, not a Force ghost. He wasn't dead yet. So I don't know. This is just weird stuff that they're just throwing in here all of a sudden that we didn't know could happen is happening. So they have this conversation. Luke says that's the part, or Yoda says that's the part about being a master, is they outgrow us. They become more than us. I can't remember the exact, I'm paraphrasing. But he says they surpass us, basically. And told him all, he was looking too much. He was too worried about what could happen. This is the same Luke. At that moment, you're realizing, oh, okay, Luke and Dagobah was always looking ahead. How do I save my friends? How do I stop them from dying? Same thing Anakin had a problem with, right?
You know what? It's funny, not to cut you off. When you said that, it kind of just clicked to me too, that when we were talking about Luke earlier, when he made the decision to maybe possibly kill Kylo, again, he was looking ahead and not at the present. It's kind of the same. It's showing again the same problem.
So, and that's something that Qui-Gon told Anakin when he was a little boy, be mindful. And he told Obi-Wan the same thing. Be mindful of the present. That was something. Be mindful of the living Force. Be mindful of what's happening right now. And that's something that Yoda also told Anakin. That's a thing that's been consistent throughout Star Wars is look right now. The future, always cloudy the future is. Ever changing, ever moving. And the Sith were always, Palpatine was always fixated on controlling the future, controlling what happens. And it's funny that we talked about Kylo being reactionary, but really the Jedi, that was their kind of their mode, their motive. And like Luke told her, it's like, you only act if you can keep peace you react and stop things from happening. Look at what's happening right now, focus on that. So Luke wasn't doing that. Yoda's reminding him of that. And then you realize in that scene where they get Poe and or Poe finds helps drag in Rose with Finn. All of a sudden you start hearing something, right? The music's changing. Something's happening because this is Star Wars and that's how it works. So everything gets quiet. Leia sits down. She realizes nobody's coming. We sent out all these things. If we can that was their goal. If we can get there, send out a message. I have enough friends. Leia has enough resources. People will come and help. Nobody returned any call. The hope has gone out, she says. The hope has gone out. And ironically, in walks A New Hope from episode 4, Luke Skywalker, right? That's what he was. That's what the movie was about, was a new hope. Anakin was supposed to be the one that it didn't happen. So now you have a new spark, a new hope, something to reignite the fire that Poe talks about. And so in walks this hooded figure, which is very strange. We're learning about force projections now, right? All of us are like, okay, he can't be there, but he is there, right? What did he get his X-wing? What happened? He's got to be a force or he's got to be a not real, right? I didn't even know what I thought he was at that point. Did we even know projections existed?
No,
So this was the first time we
there.
saw it.
It was
thought he
very
was
actually there.
It was very misleading because C-3PO saw him, a robot, a droid. So it's like he was inside. He was force touching every person. See, that's part of the thing about when I talk about. Do I like how they handled Luke in the end? Do I like that last scene? There's a lot of stuff I wanted, but even though I didn't get everything I wanted, this force power, what Luke was doing, in my mind, had to be so. His reaction when you see him later on the rock and you realize, oh, he's not there. He's still on Ahch-To, levitating, literally levitating off this rock, and he's mentally anguished. There's physical exertion on his face. He's sweating. He's shaking because he's so focused. And you realize the reach of what he's doing. First of all, I looked at the visual dictionary. This distance is ridiculous. The where he's reaching with the force is so far away. I mean, ridiculously far away. I don't remember the exact things I said, but it's like across the galaxy. Okay. He's touching every single mind. Everybody that can see him, he's somehow touching them with the force. Otherwise, how do they see him, right? So he's touching the droid. He's touching the computer, the circuits in this robot to make him see it. He's touching all these other people that have never even seen Luke Skywalker before, don't know who he is, other through legend or whatever, or word of mouth. He walks in, he sits with Leia. He tangibly puts, and this isn't even a Force ghost, he puts these dice from from Han's Millennium Falcon from up in the cockpit in her hand. And they're sitting in her hand, and he closes her hand around them. They don't disappear for like another 10 minutes almost, or however long it takes. They're there. She put them on the ground. He's not even interacting with her, and she still is holding and putting these things places that aren't even there. He's just projecting them there. Everybody sees him. Again, you have Finn. It's like, no, we got to go. We got to fight. Let's go help him. And Poe's like, no, we got to, come back and do this. So he walks out there. You get a great scene, right? This is a great scene. The doors split open. For whatever reason, they decide after the 8 to 10 minutes it took Finn to drag her in there, they decided they're going to go in now. So all of a sudden, stop. Someone's coming out. Here comes Luke. Kylo's, looking like he can't believe it. And he says, what I thought was great, he says, I want every gun we have to fire on that man. And he says, he screams now, and they just unleash it, right? The explosion, the crate sand, the red everywhere. It looks like Luke exploded because of all the red. Just everywhere, right? Taking forever, the little joke between Hux and him, do you think you got him? And it's like, fine. Which is also another little bit of a struggle, even though Hux has already acknowledged him as supreme leader, which is a considerable leap from where he was before. But he says, that's enough. Hux is the one that ends it, and they listen to him. Stop. Mm-hmm. Luke walks up, does a little brush off his shoulder, right? Which, whatever, say, ha, that's funny. It was cool in the moment, whether you like it or not, it was cool.
Antagonizing him.
He's like, put me down there. I want to go down there. They go down there. They start talking, right? Luke is now, at any point, did you guys, some of you had to have noticed the difference in age with Luke, right?
Yeah, he was much more manicured. His hair was darker. Like the gray was gone. And then, looking back, maybe in the moment he didn't catch it, but he's lighting a lightsaber that's split in half.
In the moment, when he was talking to Leia, when he was in there, I'm thinking he's younger. Like I said, I can understand. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm thinking he cleaned himself up, but he didn't dye
his hair.
Right? I mean, is this just what is
for
happening?
Men on his beard?
Yeah, what is happening here? So then he's out there, and you see Leia. They did the Millennium. By the way, the Millennium Falcon coming in. That was awesome. I
hate that shit.
She comes. Yeah, that was a great line when Kylo says, "Blow that ship out of the sky." Like that's his father to him. Like a person like that, unstable like that, he saw that ship and thought Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And the anguish and the hurt, because he's still messed up about that. And seeing that, he wants that, erase that. I don't want to see that. That needs to be gone. Yeah. And so she pulls all of them away. They go through, there's a little bit of a playback to the music from Empire Strikes Back, the asteroid scene where they dive down into Cray. It was really cool, which was one of my favorite scenes. I always love that scene. And they go in there, they do all that stuff. And then Rey's looking for them, and you start realizing as Luke's talking, okay, Rey's coming down there. There's a bunch of rocks. You're like, okay, she's going down there. She's going to start using the Force and stuff, moving rocks and all that stuff. So they have their conversation. He starts doing lightsaber stuff. Luke starts doing really cool stuff. We're like, oh man, they're going to fight in a lightsaber battle. But his lightsaber's blue. Immediately, I knew that's not right. Immediately, I knew that's a blue lightsaber. Why does he have a blue lightsaber? Like that, I didn't necessarily connect that was his dad's lightsaber. I thought, why does he have a blue one? Because in my mind, I'm thinking that's not his dad's light. It didn't even click in my head that could be that lightsaber. I'm thinking it's a different lightsaber that's blue. I just don't know why he's got a blue lightsaber, but it seemed off. It was just another thing that seemed off to me. Then it seemed off that he wouldn't touch him at all. He just evaded everything. I'm like, I want to see an actual fight, Then when he says, strike me down in anger and I'll always be with you. They tweaked the line a little bit, but it's the same thing. Obi-Wan said to Anakin, the exact same thing. And I'm like, crap. He's going to still not knowing exactly what even I'm looking at. Is this even Luke in the flesh? But then there's a part of me that goes, he's done. He's going to do the Force Ghost thing. And he charges him. It goes straight through him. Very clearly, nobody's thinking, did he just hit him? You see it go straight through him. Slides. And I missed completely that Luke had no footprints. I completely missed it, which was a tell. Another tell they put in there. No red footprints. Kylo had all kinds of red stuff sliding everywhere. Luke completely didn't have any. But he turns around, looks at him. The music's swelling. Luke's kind of giving him this look. He walks up and just puts the saber through his chest, comes out the other side. The music swells. You see Luke levitating. And at that moment in the theater, I could hear people going. I could hear the audible gasp and like, oh man, like the reveal. Like it was a good reveal. It was really, whether or not you wanted to see it happen like that, that was really cool. And again, I'm like, that's really a powerful Force thing he's using. So then he basically says, see you around, kid. Like, or the other thing he said I wanted to bring up too was, I'll always be with you like your father. Like he's sticking it to him. He's poking Kylo on purpose. He knows the buttons to push. And he says, see you around, kid. And then he falls limp on that rock. It pans over the island for a second as he's climbing back up. He sees the dual suns, much like he did at the beginning on Tatooine when he started his complete adventure. That's what started it all. And he climbs back up. He sits there. He disappears. Now, before he disappeared, I was all in on that. I thought that was really cool. It's not what I expected. It's not even necessarily what I wanted, but I'm fine with it. He didn't die. And then he disappears. And I'm like, no. Like, wait a second. Like, no, wait. Like, I just don't know if that's what I want. But you have to keep going. The movie keeps going. You don't have time to think about it, right? I think that's part of what happens when we all walked out of the movie and we didn't know what to think because we're still trying to
process that. Yep.
What happened. So before wrapping the movie up, what exactly did you guys think? I know Brian hated it. What did you think about the way that Luke went out? the way that Luke ended.
I don't say I hate it. I just, I still wish I had seen him fight, like do a actual lightsaber duel. It was impressive to see that. It shows the power that he has. And it was good to see him turn around and actually, get engaged into the battle. So I didn't hate it, but I remember though watching it, and when it was clear that he was about to die, I remember sitting there and I was with a friend. I was like, no, like out loud. I'm like, no. And then of course he died, and I didn't expect him to die in this movie. So that was shocking. I was okay with it, but I didn't expect it. But I'm just going to say this, and I'll let you guys comment. I did. Ryan Johnson had put out a tweet a while back ago about the force projection deal, and that he got that from a book called the Jedi Path, and it's supposed to be like a quote unquote training manual for Jedis. There's a section, advanced force techniques, and there's a part that says doppelganger or similifurturus. I can't say it, but it says permits a Jedi to create a short-lived duplicate of himself or herself or an external object that is visually indistinguishable from the real item. Those who have perfected this ability can create phantoms of any person of their choosing or trick an enemy into seeing more objects, such as droids, than are actually present.
Interesting.
So kind of cool that he, looking back now, that he did kind of pull that from something that was established, but nobody paid attention to, really. So, all right, that's my input.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to say on Luke?
It was fun. It was cool. Not what he expected, and that's, like you said, I think part of having to come to grips with that as you left. But
did we want to see? Did we want to see? Nobody wanted to see Luke go out in the final movie, like in the final battle.
It would have been nice. Like, yeah, it'd have been nice to know that he's still around in number 9, and that you're going to see something even bigger, maybe, or I don't know.
I like what we talked about in the text thread earlier, where if this could have ended on a more negative note, that it ended with a spark of hope, which was cool. But I feel like if Rey would have went to the dark side, and Luke would have stayed alive and had to have, basically he's pulled back in that way because he realizes
together.
Yeah, he realizes, well, I lost Ben because I tried to follow the Jedi path. Now I lost Rey because I didn't. And he is the hope. He's the hope that the Resistance needed. He's the hope that the galaxy's always needed. And I thought it would have been cool. I mean, I still think Luke has a major part to play through forced ghostery in episode 9. And I'm very curious to see. But leading into the next question, the last question, to wrap it up.
I was just gonna say that scene to me seemed, again, very reminiscent of Obi-Wan purposely sacrificing himself on the Death Star so that he could make sure that he was there to guide Luke through everything else without like any interference. Like that moment he chose to give up his life here in order to be a Force ghost, to be able to guide Luke through the rest of the
because if Rey didn't know he was going to do that.
No,
Rey left him thinking he's not going to help. And then I wonder what she thought when they told her, we saw Luke.
Yeah.
Luke was there. All those people thought Luke was there.
And it seemed like in that moment that was his solution, where like he came close to killing Kylo once and probably would never want to relive that moment again. Like would never want to do that again because he already felt terrible about it, and that already broke his heart. So this seemed like his best way to both confront Kylo and sort of save the day, so to speak, and also sacrifice himself so that he could do what Obi-Wan did and guide Rey and whomever else through the rest of their path or whatever.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, because for all we know, his X-Wing was gone. I mean, we saw it there in the water, but I mean, could he have raised it up out like they did in Dagobah and it still worked? Who knows? Because I thought that's the only way he could have got there.
Yeah.
Because if he did that, right?
And we have to
If he was
assume
there.
it was there for
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
you know?
So to wrap up this segment, and then we'll just blow through the predictions because I think we'll be fine on that. Where does this leave Star Wars for us?
No idea.
I mean, it's literally when he let it all die and wipe the slate clean. I mean, we don't really have much to go on, right?
Not a clue.
I think the biggest assumption is that there's going to be a big time jump. I think you're going to see a much more established in his villainry Kylo. And you're going to see Rey more powerful, possibly. Do you think there'll be any more people that she's maybe taught anything to, or is it just going to be her? And how much time do you think is going to pass, if any? Maybe we're wrong about that. Maybe it's another 2 days later thing.
I don't know. There's got to be time passed. I think the picking up right where Force Awakens left off actually hurt The Last Jedi. I think there's got to be a little bit of a time jump. I don't know how long. I don't think she'll be training anybody. I think you'll see her training with Luke somehow or something. I think she's still learning. But
yeah.
But as far as where it goes.
So is Kylo completely on his own, or do you think they're going to play into some type of Vader thing? I'm not saying like a Vader ghost, but do you think they're going to bring back is he going to be talking to Rey? Or is that door closed? Like when it showed the door closed, was that literally their connection ending? Is he going to be completely alone or what? Or is it just him and Hux, you know?
Well, there's the Knights of Ren.
First Order buddies. Yeah.
Is there though? Like, do they still exist?
That's the thing. Where were they? That was another thing that people wanted to know, and it wasn't even touched.
Yeah.
Snoke says, even you Kylo Ren, the master of the Knights of Ren.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So are they still out looking for Skywalker maybe in different parts of the galaxy?
Yeah. I agree with Brian. I feel like I have no idea where they take it from here, but I like that. Like that was kind of what I was hoping to get from The Last Jedi. Like turn everything on its head.
I just feel like a lot of the reason why there's not as much hype right now and why people are so critical is because they don't have anything to speculate on, really. There's very little to speculate on. Unless you they gave us not a lot to go on, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You've got the rebellion now, or the resistance, that literally can fit aboard the Millennium Falcon. That's how small they are. And they are going to, I'm imagining, going to pick up some people along the way. I mean, some people have obviously heard again the story that what Luke did already. It traveled to Canto Bight. We saw that. We don't know how long that was after, because obviously that had to have been a little bit. I mean, they're not going to hear about it immediately, right? Because even in the prequels,
there's got to be a time jump.
Yeah, it's been established that the Empire subdued stories of the Jedi. They rewrote them out of it. They don't want that story. We found out about the first Death Star explosion that the Empire said that's propaganda. That didn't really happen. They tried to cover it all up to where people didn't believe that the rebellion was making a difference. But we see these little kids, these little stable kids, right? They're not watching TV. They're not. How did the story get to them to where they even have toys to resemble Luke Skywalker came and did this? So they've heard about it. It's gotten back. News has traveled. So I think, safe to assume the resistance will be significantly larger in this ninth movie, and Rey might have some help, might not. I think you're right about the Knights of Ren playing a part. They need to. And that was something that JJ basically started. So JJ has that, something that Ryan didn't even touch on. So he can do whatever he wants with that.
It almost feels like at Christmas, people get you gifts and you're like, oh, what'd you get me? What'd you get me? And then they just like kind of very lamely turn and say, I got you this. It's like, oh yeah, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Who are Rey's parents? Who's Snoke? And then Ryan Johnson's just like, here you go.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, you never have to buy socks again, though.
Yeah.
But so overall, it's like Isaac said at the beginning. It's more Star Wars. There's a lot of cool stuff in it. It gave us as much as it wasn't a lot of what we expected. It gave us more lore. There's more that the Force can be done with. That's why I'm thinking, well, what's possible? Can Luke be a Force ghost and actually fight someone? Can Luke do something in the 9th movie that is something we've not seen Force Ghost do. Does Anakin play a role in this in 9? Will we see a Force Ghost Sith? Will we see Vader? Why, why does Rey, or why does Kylo think that Vader was right? I mean, obviously it was something Snoke said, right? There's a lot of questions that JJ set up that I still want to have answered. And there's things that we can revisit. It's just weird that the only speculation we have is backstory. What about this? What about this? We're not left with a lot of what's going to happen moving forward. But I am excited about it. I think all of us are. That's pretty much a no-brainer. We all are all Star Wars fans. And The Last Jedi is a movie that we all own. I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do not own it. Not yet.
That's not surprising. So Star Wars: The Last Jedi. That was our
not surprising.
That was our Star Wars: The Last Jedi review. And we are very excited to be doing this more in the future. We love Star Wars. Last but not least, this has gone a while, and it's Star Wars, so that's okay. Lots of cool, exciting conversation. Real quick before we end, I want to just go through quickly just a little bit about Solo: A Star Wars Story. It comes out this week that we are recording this podcast. Just a few quick facts. It's currently tracking to do 150 to 170 million domestically opening week, which is not bad at all. Obviously, the saga movies are going to do more. The Force Awakens did 247 plus million. The Last Jedi did 220, a little over 220. Rogue One did 155 million. So an anthology movie to 155. This is tracking to 150 to 170. So if it does that well, then that's great. They did say advanced ticket sales are higher currently than Black Panther was before it came out, which that was a pretty big hyped movie.
Yeah.
So for this movie to have sat in silence for so long, and I think we were all questioning why, but the underlying behemoth reason was The Last Jedi, I believe. It's doing quite well. Josh did point out that I think the critics and Rotten Tomato have given it right now. Is it at a 70 or a 77 or what is it? Mid 70s?
I think it's 71%. It just, the thing about that list that struck me, and again, we were talking about it. Like, I don't really put a ton of credit or stock in like what critics say, but the thing about that list that struck me was the only two movies on that list that had a lower score were episodes 1 and 2.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, obviously, the only movie on there that really has an audience score that greatly differs is The Last Jedi. I think it was not tracked. It was a critic score of like 92 or 93, and the audience score I think is right now at 47%, which is pretty low. Yeah. So that's you could make a fairly safe assumption that half the people that saw this didn't like it. Now, granted, negative people are usually the loudest, but we are all Star Wars fans, and we all had, even the ones that liked it more than others, we all had problems with this movie. But it's a Star Wars movie, and we're still excited. I'm not going to boycott future Star Wars movies because I think that's crazy. People that say that, I think it's crazy. So real quick, I want each of us to give 3 predictions for what we think we're going to see in Solo: A Star Wars movie opening this week. And I'm going to draw a number between 1 and 100. And Chad, you won.
Yay for me.
Yeah.
You want all 3 of them?
Just give me one first. Give me one.
R2-D2 and C-3PO are going to be in the movie somehow.
Oh my gosh.
They've been in every single movie up to this point. It'd be silly not to be also.
Oh my gosh.
There's my first one.
Where were they in
they're in
Rogue or
Princess Leia's ship.
Rogue One takes place after. So what Rebels would be the thing, right? So where are they in Rebels for most of the Rebels story?
The cartoon?
Because this takes place during Rebels before Rogue One.
Takes place before Rogue One. I mean, I don't know. Where were they after Revenge of the Sith is over? They're with
Obi-Wan, right?
No, they're with their
C-3PO is still on Oh no, he's
their
not.
memories are wiped, except for R2, and they're sold to their owner that they are owned by before Luke Skywalker gets them. Which I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Captain Antilles.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. That's my thought.
Okay. Anyone want to go next, or do you want? Anyone want to volunteer?
I'll go next, just so somebody doesn't take it. So when I watched the trailer, one of the bad guys, it looks to me, and I could be completely wrong, seems to have like a laser whip or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like to me. I think
that's your prediction. Come on.
Yeah, I think that's going to give the Han Solo character the scar on the chin that Harrison Ford.
Oh, you think that's going to play in?
I do.
Like they did in Indiana Jones.
I think that's going to happen like that.
Really interesting. Okay, I'm going to go next. I'm going to say that Kira dies right in front of Han's eyes. Not supposed to rhyme, it just does. And I'm just going to say
I have that as one of mine also.
I almost put that down.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like a Casino Royale type thing for James Bond, like something that turns him cold.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Josh, Isaac, who's going next?
I'll go last.
Okay. Josh, that means you're next.
All right. My first prediction is that we're going to get some information on. So some of this has already been like speculated and maybe even said, but we're going to get some information on Chewie's family. But my prediction is he's going to have like a wife and kids, like a nice little home life setup. And they're all like, there's going to be some kind of tragic backstory that like launches him into his adventures with Han. Like they die off.
Christmas special.
Like somebody massacres them. The Christmas special happens and everybody hates it. Whatever the case may be, but like he's going to have no reason to like stay wherever he's at because his family, gets wiped out somehow. All right. He'll have some sort of tragic backstory.
Isaac.
So mine is similar to Dave's. I don't think it's going to be the Mother of Dragons, but Woody Harrelson's character.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of like loses his mentor, picks up that,
mantle.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Chad, are you writing all these down?
No, I'm not.
I just realized.
Go back and listen.
We're not just listen to it. That's fine. So Chad, you're next.
Okay. I'll go with my not easy one. I think we'll get some information on Han's parents, even.
Ooh.
To the point of either he didn't know them at all, or we'll find out what happened that kind of set him down.
Obi-Wan is his parent.
Yeah,
he was immaculately conceived.
There's somebody's. So I think we'll get some information on Han's parents a little bit.
He's Anakin's dad.
Weird.
Brian?
I think the movie will end with somehow setting up the relationship between Han and Jabba the Hutt.
Ooh, good one.
That kind of took from one of mine, which was Jabba is mentioned in the film, but I'm not gonna go on that one because that steps on yours. I will go with I think that they're going to, obviously we know the Kessel Run is in this movie. I am going to predict that they're going to stick with, which I believe is non-canon, that the parsec is a measurement of distance thing.
It is, because Finn says as they're heading back to Snoke's ships that we're only 2 parsecs away.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
I was going to say that. Never mind. That's how. Well, I was going to say that's how he cheats the Kessel Run, but because I didn't know if they were going to make it something different, like he lied. Because some people think he just said that as misdirection to Obi-Wan, just to sound, make the ship sound fancy, but that's not really what happened. Well, then I'll go with another one and say, I think the movie's, this might be obvious, I don't know. I think the movie's going to end with remember, he signed on for 2 other movies. Not that it doesn't mean they're going to be made. There's a possibility of 2 other movies with this actor as Han Solo, young Han Solo. But I think this one's going to end with his gang disbanding and him being betrayed, like basically him being like not a great ending. I don't think it's going to end well. I think it's going to be a great ride, but I think he's going to be left in a position where he's alone, other than having Chewie, and that it was because, yeah, it's because that's just a part of being a scoundrel.
Interesting. Yeah.
Josh.
So similar, but one of my predictions was that Woody Harrelson's character turns out to actually be like one
Jabba?
of, Jabba, one of, if not the villain.
He gets force electrified, and it turns him
into just this big sludge. Yeah. No, Woody Harrelson's character turns out to be like one of the villains, if not the main villain of the movie, and Han ends up having to, like stand up to him or take him on at some point during the movie.
That is interesting.
I like that.
Interesting.
Isaac.
I think somebody from Rogue One is going to be in there.
Oh, wow, that's great. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think like
what if you see Garrett? What? Not Garrus. What's her dad's name? What's her dad's name?
Galen.
What if you see him? Because Han is applying to the Empire.
That's cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think it'll be just like very brief, just like a quick nod.
That's a good idea.
That would be interesting.
Oh, Isaac, what if it's Saw? You are going to fly this.
No more Forrest Whitaker ever in any other movies.
No, I think
for the rest of time.
Whitaker with different outfits and wigs on, playing every character.
Oh no!
Nice.
Okay,
Chad. My last one.
Yeah,
Josh will not like this movie.
Oh my!
No, I'm kidding.
God.
Kidding. Chad, I'm not even gonna lie. Chad, I'm not even gonna lie. I almost put that down as one of my predictions.
I do have it typed out as if that is real. But yeah, my real one is the middle section of the Millennium Falcon, the part that in the movie is there. That's where Han has Jabba's stuff that he dumps, because the Empire is going to take it from him. So he dumps this stuff that is here, and that's Jabba's stuff, and that's how he ends up owing Jabba
to a section of
a lot of money. It's right here.
His nipple?
Yeah.
No, so that section of the Millennium Falcon that's now gone in our what we know as the Falcon is where Jabba's materials are, or whatever he's doing for Jabba. He dumps that, and that's what gets him in.
We still don't know what the cargo was, right? They never said.
Spices, wasn't it? I don't remember.
They never said that I'm aware of. So I think that's what that is.
My last prediction will be.
Whoa! Isn't it my turn?
No, I'm skipping you. I'm running the show.
In case you take mine.
All right, go ahead.
All right, mine is there's going to be a cameo.
Oh, come on!
By
wait, just in general, or are you specific?
Boba Fett.
Just kidding.
Ooh.
Like maybe he's just in the background somewhere or something, but I think we'll get a glimpse of Boba Fett somehow.
Can't believe we didn't. Like, when he's still a kid? Like Django's kid?
No, he would have been. No, he'd been older.
He'd have been about the same age as Han.
Yeah.
It's actually the enemy of the show.
That's interesting.
My last prediction. It is interesting. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't think of any Boba Fett anything for this. This kind of runs into my last one, but it's more specific. I think that Han and Lando, everybody's like, oh yeah, this is a Han and Lando, buddy cop type thing. This movie's going to end with them on bad terms, like not happy with each other. Now, I wonder, because there's possible other movies, but from what we know in Empire Strikes Back, when they meet each other, Han doesn't know how Lando's going to react. I mean, he even flinches because he thinks Han is going to take a swing at him. And he says, what have you done to my ship? So it's like he hasn't seen him since Han got the ship. That's what we're led to believe anyways. So I think they leave not happy with each other at all. on bad terms and not knowing, that leads into
It's a good one.
plays into the other ones.
All right.
Joshua?
Here's my last prediction that I wrote down. Are you guys ready?
Oh
No.
gosh.
Bated breath.
Oh my gosh. It's one of your
Han
Fortnite-
Solo is an assumed identity, but we're not told what Han Solo's identity previously was. So I think they tell us at some point during the movie, Han Solo is not who he actually is. That's an assumed identity to go along with his, new career as a pirate, smuggler, whatever.
Is it canon that that's what? I guess it doesn't make sense. It's not canon. At one point I heard that that's what Boba Fett did, but now that it's canon that he's Jango Fett's kid, I guess. Does it even call him Boba? I don't think he does. Does he? He does.
Yeah, he does. He
Yeah,
calls
he
him
says his name.
Boba.
That's
Yeah.
so weird. I don't know where I read it. I thought I read somewhere that maybe it was in Legends or something, Expanded Universe or something, that that the person in the Mandalorian armor actually killed
Boba
the
Fett.
previous bounty hunter and took it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think that was maybe some fan fiction or something. Yeah, the Boba Fett actually was killed, and that it's not Boba Fett in that armor from the prequels. It's someone else. But anyways, Isaac,
You guys ready for this one? This is a real hot take.
hot take.
Ron Howard will narrate the whole movie. A la Arrested Development.
I want that to be true. True. Here's a story of a guy. Not real nice.
Meanwhile, Chewie was finding
Yeah.
out just how difficult it is
I like
to
it.
be roommates with somebody you don't know.
I like it.
Chewie was upset that every time he used underarm deodorant, it matted up his hair.
He's a never nude. Chewbacca.
Yeah. Do you have
What if
one,
Cad
Isaac?
Bane?
That's-
What if Cad Bane was in it? The movie Cad Bane,
I can't remember who Cad Bane is.
the guy with the big cowboy hat, the bounty hunter from the Clone Wars.
Oh,
They made him a live action character.
strange looking dude. Yeah, who knows?
Anyway.
Could have a lot of money. Isaac, is that your? Is that? I mean, do you not have one or?
Yeah, no, that's all I got.
You're the best, Isaac. You really are.
All right, well, mark it down. We're going to all see the movie, I assume, this weekend or next week at some time. I know I'm going to see it as soon as I possibly can, which is probably going to be Saturday or Friday night. We'll see. Or Thursday night. I don't know. Probably Thursday night. I don't know. But for now, that has going to wrap up this very long but very enjoyable Star Wars review. That was the Last Jedi review and our predictions for Solo: A Star Wars Story. You can check this out. It'll be on our those of you that are watching YouTube. I doubt it that anybody's watching YouTube this late. Maybe Brian, who couldn't make it to the podcast but can watch this entire YouTube show. He's been one of our viewers. We miss Brian North, always bringing good conversation to the table. But you'll also be able to listen to it on the Star Wars Rant podcast. Check it out. There's plenty of other episodes there you can listen to. We've done trivia games over there. We did debates between myself and Brian North, and then Brian Seddon and Chad, and then Chad and myself. Chad Cheaton, it's Wikipedia. You can write whatever you want. No spoilers. No spoilers. But then, yeah, what was I going to say? Check us out on South Dakota Gamer. What do you do, Chad? Do you want me to talk about Sioux Empire podcast? Are we obligated to say that after every show?
Not obligated for anything.
Still, they're nice people. Check out the Sioux Empire podcast.com, right?
Sure.
Chad, do you remember? I want to talk about
There's a magician that has a podcast.
the podcasting magician. But anyways, thank you, Isaac, for joining us again on our Star Wars show. Isaac Awakens and the last Isaac, thumbs up. Excellent. Brian Seddon, thank you very much for this special crossover edition, staying up late with us.
Thanks for the
Josh, thanks for showing up like you do every week. And Chad,
Glad to be here.
thanks for letting me host this show so people would actually listen to it. I appreciate it.
That's what I'm all about.
And that's been what we've played. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Tune in next week. For now, that's all of us signing off. May the force be with you.
Bye.
And peace of pizza.
And also with you.
I am one with the force, and the force is with me.